Starting us off with number 10 is Sophia. Why is it that the antique looking dolls are always the cursed ones? People are always like, oh ye of little faith, like no I have little faith, look at what the days of yore gave us. Nothing but societal issues and cursed porcelain dolls. Now the doll was given to a girl by her grandfather. She has a white and brown dress on with a big brown bow on her neck and a brown olden looking hat. At least have some colour in your outfit, jeez. Anyways, things took a turn for the worse when the girl's granddad died because the doll would start whispering dream with me and giggle. Apparently that was a phrase the granddad used to say to her before reading her bedtime stories. The girl's parents heard it too and really wanted to give the doll away, but they suspiciously died in a car accident right before they were going to. Was that Sophia's doing? Because if so, she has massive reach and I am terrified. After the parents' death, the doll went from whispering dream with me to die with me, and that was the end of that. Coming in at number 9 is Mandy. So Mandy is this porcelain baby doll that wears a white outfit and bonnet. Her face is proper murked though, since it's cracked up and not very well kept. Mandy is currently stored in a glass box in a Canadian museum, and she's apparently so dangerous you can't take her out of the box without smashing it. The previous owner gave it to the museum after realizing Mandy was beyond screwed up. She would keep the doll in her basement and would always hear the cries of a baby from down there. The guy who takes care of the museum claimed he can hear dainty footsteps coming from her room when no one's in there. Customers have also reported seeing her blink and follow them with her eyes. But I feel like with any doll, it always follows you with its eyes. Does anyone else feel that way? Is it just me? At number 8 we have Susie. So this doll's case file was under Ed and Lorraine Warren, so you know some spooky supernatural shit is about to go down. Heather Plaid was given the doll by her aunt who actually made it, and I don't know why she would make something so bloody terrifying. Her static smile looks like the ones off the Night of the Living Dummy Goosebumps books, like you guys know what I mean. Like, hello, no. The first night Susie spent in the house, her parents saw this black figure walking towards their house and heard growling from the inside. Over the next few weeks they realized Susie moved on her own accord and would move objects that were way heavier than she was. She was also outright dangerous and would pull the kids' hair and ended up needing to be exorcised by a priest for it to leave their house for good. Filling at number 7 slot is The Purchase. This one's from redditor KKHoliday07, who said their college roommate's sister decided to buy a haunted doll off the internet because the owner was desperate to get rid of it. The girl was fully aware that it could be a complete prank, and she herself was a major skeptic when it came to things like this, so when reality set in and it was so much different than what she expected, she was shooketh. As soon as she got the doll, things at her house went haywire. She started having intense violent nightmares every night, her dog started throwing up blood despite the vet saying he was completely fine. I mean, leave the dog out for God's sake. The girl started hearing voices that would tell her to harm herself, and she actually ended up being admitted into a mental institution and is still very much there 8 years later. As for the doll, she's probably hopefully rotting in hell. Now at number 6 is the voodoo doll. Does the fact voodoo is in the name of the doll not give you a clue that maybe you shouldn't buy it? Seems like common sense to me, but clearly not. The rag doll that looks like it's been burnt and tortured at least 14 times was bought on eBay by some random woman. When it finally arrived, it was in a silver box, and the instructions online said do not open the box and let the doll out under any circumstances. But the woman did it anyway. Honestly, if you're gonna buy a voodoo doll, I'm already gonna question your sanity and intelligence, so I was not surprised when she opened the box like, okay, great, you're still dumb. Now the doll started appearing in the woman's dreams and actually attacked her during the night a few times, so she was like, screw this, I'm gonna sell you. And she did successfully and multiple times, but each time she sold it, it would somehow appear back in her house. I'm sure by now the woman's abandoned the doll in some landfill under tons of garbage, but the doll probably made it back into her bed somehow. You know how they be. Coming in at number 5 is Alice. So Alice got passed down from generation to generation, but initially belonged to the grandmother of the girl who has it now. Again, she's porcelain white, blue eyes, brown hair, blush that covers her entire cheek and jaw surface area for some weird reason, and this Mona Lisa smile where you don't know whether she's smiling at you or plotting your demise. Rumor has it when the grandma was young, one of her good friends passed away and her spirit is now stuck inside of Alice. EVP recordings have picked up the doll saying, "I want to be left alone to suffer. So I mean, technically she just wants to be alone and not hurt anyone, but just in case, she's locked away on some shelf somewhere, so all's well that ends well, I guess. At number 4 is Elmo. I feel like Elmo toys are so popular, obviously because of how popular Sesame Street is. I don't think I've ever walked into a Toys R Us without seeing some sort of Elmo toy somewhere. Never actually had one myself though. I do have Sesame Street pajamas, Elmo focused though. Those are nice and comfortable. Either way, the Bowmans decided to buy a talking Elmo doll back in 2008 for their 2-year-old son, James. The doll was programmed to say the child's name and 2 other phrases, but nothing else. But after the family changed its batteries, the doll started ad-libbing other words like "kill James," which I don't even know how the doll would be able to say unless it was A, programmed into him, or B, he was just possessed. And imagine hearing that in Elmo's sing-songy voice like, "No." And they got rid of it ASAP Rocky, so good for them. Filling at number 3 slot is Poopa. This doll probably moves the most out of any of the ones on the list, and that is something that just does not sit well with me. Poopa is interesting because she was made to look like an exact replica of the girl who owned her, so she has blue eyes, curly blonde hair, and she's wearing a matching blue hat, dress, and bow. She's one of the cutest dolls on this list actually, if not the cutest, but according to the family that she lived with, she would change her expression and move her arms on multiple occasions. She's stored in a glass box, and whenever she's in a bit of a mood, you know, a bit of a tantrum, she'll start tapping on the glass, and when someone comes to give her attention, they find her hands on the glass. Poopa is honestly chaotic and mischievous. She's tried to escape countless times, but to no avail, so it's like, girl, stop trying. I'm guessing she has the spirit of the girl who owned her inside of her. You know, that would make sense. Now at number 2 is Caroline. The doll's owner had a very tragic history. Both the girl's mother and grandma were burned at the stake for being witches, so I mean this doll is really all the girl had for company and female love. Looks wise, it's this very porcelain white doll with red curly hair, blue eyes, big old red cheeks, and those 20s, you know, like line eyebrows that look like trash. Now the girl lived her life, she got older, and tragically passed away while giving birth to her child. The doll then found itself in this other man's collection, but after a few months of having it, he decided to give it away as well. People in his family had mysteriously started dying ever since he acquired the doll, so it was like, well, it's clear to see what the cause is. I mean, no it's gonna cause people to die. It's haunted by the spirit of the girl, her mum, her grandma. It's like the thing is collecting souls. And finally, at number 1 is Kasia. The story of this doll is truly horrific and originates in Russia. One of the Tsar's concubines was pregnant and very much hoping for a son. When she gave birth though, not only was it a girl, the girl was also deformed, so they burned her alive. The mother then mixed the ashes with pottery clay and made it into a doll, which is really messed up. If you didn't want the girl to begin with, why keep her ashes and make her into something inanimate? The doll itself is extremely creepy. The face is one proper eye and one like glassy faded over one. Her face is cracking to reveal the yellow clay underneath, and of course she's made with a baby's ashes. Katia is under strict surveillance because her curse is actually very dangerous. If you look at her face more than 20 seconds and she winks at you, then you may as well just say your goodbyes. Something bad will happen to you since she left her mark on you, and all you can do is just wait for it, really.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Charlie. Charlie's story starts back in 1968 when they were found in the attic of an old Victorian home that resides in upstate New York. An old attic of a Victorian home seems like a perfect place to find a cursed doll, and it definitely seems as though that's what happened. Charlie was found inside of a locked trunk, and inside of that trunk, aside from the doll, there were also some newspapers dating back to the 30s, as well as a yellowed piece of paper that had the Lord's Prayer scribbled on it. With all that I've learned about cursed items in my time here on Most Amazing, I personally would have locked the trunk back up and called Ed and Lorraine Warren, but this family, they did not do that. They did quite the opposite. Instead, they placed the doll on display with some of the others that they had, and this is where the trouble began. Soon, Charlie started moving, all on their own. The family would return to find that the doll had somehow swapped places with some of the other dolls around. Shortly after this, one member of the family began to claim that they could hear Charlie speaking to them at night. The parents, unfortunately, didn't listen and chalked this story up to an active imagination, but the other members of the family were terrified of Charlie and refused to go near. Soon, things would take an escalation when a family member began to find mysterious and serious scratches on their body, and this is when the family collectively decided that something needed to be done. They locked Charlie back up in the trunk, and now Charlie resides at the local Artisan, which is said to be an oddity shop that sits in Beverly, Massachusetts, just minutes away from the haunting town of Salem. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Shrine Barbie. Barbie isn't always sunshines and smiles. Sometimes apparently there might be something more sinister going on. On a Singaporean island, there is a shrine dedicated to someone who passed away after falling from a cliff in 1914. It is said that the person who passed was a German, and at the time of their passing, they were stuck on this island when their family began being investigated by the British Army. Despite the years it's been since her death, this Barbie was actually only placed at the shrine in 2007. This all happened because a local man claimed that the German girl had requested the doll to be placed at the shrine after appearing to him in a dream for 3 nights in a row. It is this story that has people believing that this doll might have a lot more going on than what meets the eye. In our number 8 spot today, we have Lily. Lily was initially delivered to a paranormal research organization with a note from the owner that read, quote, "I found her outside my door one morning with a note that said to not put her by mirrors or in the same room I sleep in. I gave her a flashlight so she could drain the batteries, but instead she made my lights flicker at night. My cat would not go near her and my dog would just stare. At times I would be woken up from a dead sleep smelling burnt toast or sometimes a sweet fruity smell. Her favorite color is red. That is all I know." Okay. That's terrifying, but it seems like the doll was in the right spot. The doll quickly started to give off major paranormal vibes. As it turns out, this group was able to trace back some of the origins of Lily, and it totally makes sense as to why she would be a haunted doll. Apparently she can be traced back all the way to the early 1600s, which is a time when figurines like Lily were left out to scare off local spirits and New World ghosts. This custom can be dated all the way back to Vikings and ancient Rome, and it seems as though Lily and her powers didn't just work, but maybe caught some kind of entity on the way. In our number 7 spot today, we have Annabelle. Alright, what is a list of haunted dolls without the haunted doll? Annabelle. It's not just a movie, there really is a very real doll that the tales have been inspired by. The doll now resides inside of the Warrens Occult Museum, where it absolutely belongs, but where did it come from? Well, there was a college student named Donna who received this doll as a gift from her mother, who had purchased it from an antique store. Donna and her roommate started to notice some pretty creepy things happening and swore that the doll was moving. They said it would appear in different places and positions throughout their apartment before things began to get worse. Donna began to find notes that said help in her apartment, and one night found the doll in a different position and covered in some sort of red substance. The girls then decided to contact a medium who solidified all of their beliefs and told them that the doll had been possessed by the spirit of someone who was killed in their apartment building. For some reason, the girls didn't immediately get rid of the doll, and the story goes that their friend Lou, who was at the girls' apartment, heard a strange noise one night and went to investigate, and he was then attacked and killed by Annabelle. The girls finally contacted a priest who told them that the doll was possessed by a demon straight from hell, and then put them in contact with, you guessed it, Ed and Lorraine, who are the paranormal investigators. They tried to do an exorcism on the doll, but it apparently failed, which is why it now is kept in a glass box at their museum. In our number 6 spot today, we have Ruby. Ruby, like many of these other cursed dolls, just couldn't seem to sit still. This doll always found itself moving around the house, and the owners would find her in different rooms than they had left her, which definitely is what led to them catching on to her haunted nature. This was only exacerbated by the fact that anyone who picked Ruby up was suddenly plagued by feelings of extreme sadness as well as nausea. After a little digging, the family was able to find that Ruby had quite a dark history that might help to explain these strange happenings. According to the former owners of Ruby, she was actually passed down in the family from generation to generation. Apparently though, when you trace back to the time that the doll entered the family in the first place, shortly after a member of the family passed away while holding the doll, and now it is believed that their spirit resides inside. Of course, the haunted doll spent a few years bouncing around between family members, but now it has found its home base, and that is in the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and the Occult. Those who have seen the doll in person person have reported that around it, they've often felt an overwhelming feeling of sorrow, and it is all said to be coming straight from the doll. In our number 5 spot today, we have Okikyu. Visitors to a specific temple in Hokkaido, Japan are welcome to gaze and look at Okikyu, but any photography is strictly prohibited. Legend goes that this doll was originally purchased in 1918 by a man who was giving it to his sister. When the doll was first purchased, it had short hair. Seems like a bit of a mundane point, but I swear it's important. Sadly, a year after receiving the doll, the sister would tragically pass away, and mysteriously after this, Okikyu the doll's hair would seem to grow, which of course should be impossible. The family ended up moving away in 1938, and before doing so, they gave the doll to the monks at the temple. Since then, it is said that the doll's hair has been continuously growing and now sits at a length to her knees. Some even claim that close inspection of the doll's mouth shows teeth that appear to be erupting from the gums. Whatever is happening here, it definitely isn't normal. In our number 4 spot today, we have Robert the Doll. Robert the Doll was a childhood birthday gift from a grandfather to his grandson, who was also named Robert, but more often went by Gene. The story claims that while growing up with Robert, Gene would often be heard by his parents in his bedroom having conversations with himself in 2 entirely different voices. His parents would sometimes be woken up in the middle of the night to the sound of Gene screaming, only to find him completely frightened in bed with overturned furniture all around him. Gene would blame Robert for all of the strange happenings, and at the time, no one really believed him. Gene kept Robert into adulthood, and it became what people would describe as an unhealthy relationship. Apparently, Gene took Robert everywhere with him and spoke as if he was a living entity rather than a doll. Okay, so this story is already not great, but it gets worse. Gene lived in a house as an adult that was called the artist's house. Robert would be left in the upstairs window where children in the area reported seeing the doll disappear and reappear, and they all chose to stay clear of the house. After Gene passed away in 1974, a woman named Myrtle purchased the house, and apparently Robert as well. Visitors of the house could swear they could hear footsteps and giggling coming from the attic where Robert was, and some even claimed to see the doll's expression change if someone spoke poorly of Gene. Myrtle reported Robert moving around the house on his own, and after 20 years she decided that she had had enough and donated him to a museum. Robert still lives in the museum where he is safely locked up, but it is said that he still likes to place a little curse on those who take his photo without permission. The walls of the museum near Robert's glass case are riddled with notes from previous visitors and naysayers who are begging Robert for his forgiveness and asking him to remove any curse he had placed on them. In our number 3 spot today, we have Chuck Esme. Alright, it's my favorite on this list. I have talked about Chuck Esme before, and I swear I will every time I get a chance because I love this story. It's so funny and pretty terrifying as well. Twilight fans everywhere will remember the infamous character of Renesmee, the child of human Bella and vampire Edward, and we will also all remember the very questionable CGI that was used in the movies. I mean, how could we possibly forget it? But it turns out the CGI wasn't the only cursed part of Renesmee's character. For much of the movie filming, an animatronic doll was used in place of a real infant. This prop, however, is now being accused of being possessed by some malevolent spirit. The doll resides in the Forever Twilight display at the Chamber of Commerce in Forks, Washington, where the movie is set. According to those who work at the exhibit, as well as visitors, the doll is now referred to as Chuck Esme, a reference to the Chucky movies, because of the strange happenings around the Twilight prop. According to one of the people who works in the building, quote, "One day she might be standing up straight, and the next, when you come in on another day, she's in a weird position." She went on to say, quote, "It's like, is she moving around in there? We don't know, but we tell everyone that the display case cover is on her for their protection." In our number 2 spot today, we have the Island of the Dolls. The Island of the Dolls is basically exactly what it sounds like, and while it is exceptionally creepy to look at, the story behind it is even more disturbing. This island sits in the canals south of Mexico City, and it is the home of many, many absolutely frightening and mutilated dolls. Even in the daylight, these dolls look creepy with their missing limbs and heads and creepy beady eyes, but at nighttime, the island is absolute nightmare fuel. The story behind this island is quite tragic. It starts off with the only person on the island, Don Julian Santana, finding a body. He was of course absolutely beside himself over this gruesome discovery, and shortly after he saw a doll floating by in the water. He strung the doll up in a tree in order to appease her soul and to protect the island from evil. While this is an extremely dark story and the dolls are very creepy, the story only gets more eerie and more paranormal feeling. The Island of Dolls is of course only accessible by boat, but despite its isolation, many people come to visit the haunting island, and in return, there have been many reports of these tourists hearing some sort of whispering coming from the dolls. Tourists are also encouraged to bring and leave some sort of offering or another doll to add to the collection, so who knows what cursed items are being left behind in the hopes of these people ridding them from their own life. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Nightmare Doll. Haunted dolls like Annabelle and even Robert get a lot of hype, but they certainly aren't the only dolls with stories of curses and hauntings behind them. This Nightmare Doll was listed for sale on eBay, and according to the seller, the doll is possessed by a Divuk, which is a malicious demon or entity. The seller of the doll is actually someone who apparently specializes in selling these sorts of paranormal items that no one wants anymore. The seller explained that the owner of the doll bought it at an antique shop, and while they did tell her about what the doll held, she didn't know what the word meant, so she took it anyway. Soon after purchasing it, she realized that anyone who came into contact with the doll was then plagued with terrifying nightmares and occurrences of these sort of shadow people. She only could handle this all for a couple of months before she handed the doll over for it to be sold and moved far, far away from her.
Starting us off at number 10 is Lily. One day, a group of paranormal researchers received a doll with a note attached to her saying, quote, "I found her outside my door one morning with a note that said to not put her in front of mirrors or in the same room I sleep in. I gave her a flashlight so she could drain the batteries, but instead she made my lights flicker at night. My cat would not go near her and my dog would just stare. At times I would be woken up from a dead sleep smelling burnt toast or sometimes a sweet fruity smell. Her favorite color is red. That is all I know." The researchers were very intrigued by the doll, and it didn't take long before Lily began acting strange around them too. And they knew that something was deeply wrong. But unlike what any sane person might do, like, I don't know, get rid of the evil and creepy doll, they decided to mass produce it using the original as a template. That's right, if you so choose, you can have your very own Lily doll delivered right to your door. I mean, I can't. According to the researchers, she is meant to ward off evil, so at least they had good intentions, or so they say. To me, it just feels like you're taunting the evil spirits to come your way, and I will not be partaking in any kind of hangout with this doll. Next up at number 9 is a doll's house. One of the last things I would ever want to live in my house would be a haunted evil doll. But apparently not everyone has the same dreams. In fact, for the Watkins family, one wasn't enough. Instead, they have opted for a whole horde of possessed dolls to share their home with. The couple are both paranormal investigators and have been collecting cursed dolls for years. In their collection is Crystal, True, Monica, Charla, Isaac, Lily, Ashley, and Cameron, all of which were individually bought and all of which were advertised as being haunted. The community of dolls resides in their home in Pennsylvania, and up until 2015, the investigators actually set up a 24-hour live stream so that all of the internet could sit back and watch their cursed magic happen. Over the years, many claim to have witnessed more than one unsettling sight, but most notably was the 2009 sighting of a ghostly apparition of what appeared to be a boy. Okay, so maybe it's not the scariest of the bunch, but it is still a room full of possessed dolls, so it's a no for me. Coming in at number 8 is Amelia. Maybe one of the oldest haunted dolls still in existence, Amelia has been giving people nightmares for over 100 years. Back in the 1800s, she was gifted to the King of Italy, and from what I've been able to find, she wasn't yet haunted when under possession of the king. When the king died, he passed on the doll to one of his closest and dearest friends, Ulvado Bellina, who tragically, however, was assassinated, and so the doll passed down to his daughter, Marie. But still, the doll remained as sweet and unhaunted as ever. That was, of course, until the world wars. Although she managed to get through World War I relatively unscathed, as the story goes, in World War II, there was a huge explosion and a woman dove into the chaos to try and save the doll for young Marie. Sadly, the woman trying to help lost her life, and to this day it's believed that her soul is the one that haunts the doll. Now missing both arms and a good portion of her scalp, it's said Amelia routinely opens and closes her eyes and is often heard crying out for her mother at night. What makes the last bit extra creepy is that the original voice box of the doll no longer works. In fact, it hasn't worked for years. But still, every night, her cries ring loud and clear for all to hear. Next up at number 7 is Amanda. Unlike many of the others on this list, Amanda is a bisque doll. What that means is that she's made of unglazed porcelain, and while in her time she may have been used as a toy, ultimately they have turned into collector's items for the affluent. Truthfully, Amanda's specific origin story is unknown. However, we do know that she first came into the limelight after being purchased off of good old eBay. The original purchaser of the evil doll didn't last long, as they said she brought bad luck into their lives. They sold it once more, and the next owner complained of the same issue. All in all, she has been sold and purchased 10 times, never lasting long in any of the homes she finds herself in. On top of bad luck, owners have complained that she moves around all on her own, often being found in places where there was no explanation for her being there. Creepiest of all comes from her current owner, who, despite knowing the rumors surrounding the doll, decided to go ahead and bring her into their home. At least they had the knowledge to store her inside a glass case. Except now, every night when it's dark and quiet, Amanda can be heard trying to scratch her way out of the glass. Where does she want to go exactly? Well, they have no idea, but let's just hope they don't open up that case to find out. Coming in at number 6 is Mandy. Back in 1991, the Quesnel District Museum received an anonymous donation in the form of a doll, which, I mean, from what I have learned, is never a good start. The donor informed them that she could no longer handle living with the doll due to her constant crying and relentless ability to move objects or even make them disappear, and that essentially she was just way too creeped out and starting to fear that her life was in danger. Allegedly, the museum contacted a psychic to see if the information they got from the donor was true, and as it turns out, it was. The psychic advised the museum to get rid of the doll, not to keep it, but they went against their advice and included it in their exhibit anyways. Soon, Mandy began haunting the halls of the museum. Visitors claimed to hear disembodied footsteps, the sound of tapping glass, and some even swear they witnessed her face change and her eyes blink. Even creepier is that when the museum decided to place Mandy alongside other dolls in the same case, the next day all the other dolls were either damaged or found tossed onto the floor in front of the case. They let her be alone after that. Just beware if you do decide to visit her, as allegedly anytime someone has tried to photograph her, their camera breaks. Coming in at number 5 is An Island of Dolls. One doll is enough to creep me out, but did you know that there is actually an island of dolls? Oh yes, you heard that right. It's quite literally the thing of nightmares. Located in Mexico, this island has a reputation for being one of the most haunted places in the world. And while that description often gets thrown around, to be honest, I kinda believe it with this one. I mean, it's an island of dolls. It makes perfect sense to me. Legend has it that a young girl died from drowning here, and when a man named Julian Barrera moved to the island, he found he was being tormented by the girl's restless spirit. In an attempt to please her, he began hanging dolls across the island. But it seems the dolls weren't enough to please the spirit, as she managed to rope Julian into convincing his nephew that she needed a friend to join her in the afterlife. The poor nephew's body was found in a nearby canal at the very same spot where the girl had died years prior. It's said that all the dolls that remain are alive, likely haunted by the spirits of the ones who lost their lives here. Some say that their eyes move and watch them as they walk across it, but even creepier is the claim that it's not just their eyes but also their hands that move. Plus, apparently the dolls are known to laugh and whisper behind your back as you walk past. To summarize, this will not be my next tourist destination. Coming in at number 4 is Mercy. So maybe it's just me, but the fact that Mercy is one of the cuter haunted dolls I have ever seen almost makes me more afraid of her. Kind of like a cute tiny little creature that lowers your guard with its giant beanie baby eyes so that you get close enough for it to kill you with its lethal venom. Anyways, the story with Mercy is that the current owner purchased Mercy off of eBay, and as we know, that almost never goes well. When she was buying her, it was said said Mercy was haunted by the spirit of a young girl, but according to the owner, that couldn't be further from the truth. Don't get it twisted, the doll's for sure haunted, but the owner is certain it's something much worse, something evil, maybe even demonic. As soon as Mercy was brought into her home, weird things started happening. The owner felt immediately uneasy around the doll and knew that something bad was living inside of it. Then, just a few days later, she noticed that radio stations began changing if Mercy was near them. But creepiest of all was when she caught the doll standing on both feet in the middle of the room after she had been stored away in a chest. I mean, can you imagine walking in on that? I honestly might move. I know that sounds dramatic, but that house belongs to the demon inside the doll now. I may as well just get out alive while I still can. Coming in at number 3 is Harold. Haunted dolls are a pretty huge thing on the internet, I have come to understand. Personally, I have a hard time understanding why you would want to bring a possessed doll into your home, but hey, to each their own, right? Apparently, the whole sensation of it all started back in 2003 with a haunted doll named Harold. Now, what's weird about this one is that allegedly, after the new owner, Anthony, acquired the doll, the lister on eBay came forward admitting that it was all a hoax and that Harold wasn't actually haunted. But Anthony would beg to differ. Apparently, as soon as the doll arrived, strange things began happening. There were swarms of flies surrounding his attic, objects moving all around, and his dog even died, completely out of the blue. He even asked his vet. There were no answers, no illnesses, no physical abnormalities, nothing. The dog just dropped dead. That's when Anthony really got frightened. Eventually, he has come to believe that there are 5 different entities living inside of Harold, one of which seems to be the malevolent leader, while the others are being held hostage by the more powerful evil force. Anthony claims he is constantly worried for his life, but the doll continues to live with him as he is unable to make it leave, and he feels it is his duty to figure out how to get the entities out of Harold once and for all. And seriously, save yourself and don't Google him. People that have reported feeling ill or even vomiting up blood after seeing his photo. In that breath, I really hope that doesn't happen to me. Coming in at number 2, Letta. So there are regular creepy porcelain or rag dolls, and then there are marionette dolls, which to me just add a whole other level of terrifying. And the most famous of these is the truly haunting Letta. Her owner Carrie says in his hometown there was an abandoned house that everyone believed was haunted. When he got older, he decided to visit his hometown and check it out for himself if the old house really was scary after all. When he got inside, he found his old historic marionette doll that had been hidden underneath some floorboards, and intrigued, Carrie decided to plop her into the car and take her home. On the drive home, he says the doll spoke to him crying out, "Letta me out," which he decided would be the perfect name, and so Letta was born. Once he brought her home, the people in his life warned him that they felt very uncomfortable around the doll and that they didn't trust it. But still, he decided to keep her. To this day, he still has her. He has even gone on to TV shows with the doll for interviews. Still, make no mistake, this doll is scary. Carrie himself admits things got strange very soon after he brought her home. Scuff marks were appearing on the floor, items were moving, and his little ones would complain about her being in their nightmares. In fact, one night they said they woke up to Letta talking and moving around all on her own. At one point, Carrie tried to sell the cursed doll, but as he tells it, he physically could not move her out of the car. So, moral of the story, maybe don't bring home a creepy doll you found under the floor in an old abandoned haunted house from your childhood. Yeah, do we all agree there? And last up in our number 1 spot today, the Susie doll. As the story goes, in 1983, Susie was given to a young girl named Heather Platt as a birthday present from her aunt Robin. The creepy doll was rough around the edges as she was homemade, but still Heather loved it. But that night, things took a dark turn when Heather's parents were woken up by the sound of growling and saw a dark shadow walk down the street and enter their home. From that day forward, the doll was never the same. Susie began moving things around the house and was often found in completely different spots than where she had last been placed. Things got creepier when they would find Heather sitting with Susie watching TV static in what appeared to be a trance. Next thing they knew, things turned violent as the family would wake up with perfect circles of their hair missing at the back, and medical tests proved that it had been pulled out. But of course, none of them had done anything. Susie began moving freely at a more frequent and alarming running rate, never moving while she was being watched, but could change rooms at a moment's notice, fast enough that by the time you turned around, she could literally be right in front of you. Then after the father was attacked in the middle of the night by the demonic doll, they knew they had to get an expert. In came Lorraine Warren, who took one look at this whole situation and told them to seek out an exorcist immediately. Thankfully, the ritual was complete and the family decided to throw away the doll for good, and according to what I read, the family has never let another doll in their house ever again.
Number 10, Eloise. Alright, first up on this list we have Eloise, because she's the one I saw while doing a separate video that made me realize I had to do a full top 10 about this haunted eBay doll market. She is apparently haunted by a succubus, which are known for enticing men. She is reportedly capable of invading your dreams and psychically communicating with you. It's said you will have visions of a very attractive woman that matches your desires and she will try to seduce you. Doesn't really sound all that bad, right? Well, apparently you're gonna become so attached to the doll and woman to the point of being obsessed with it. The description says, with long enough exposure you will find yourself daydreaming about it every waking moment. It will enslave your mind and soul if you let it. The doll is recommended for anyone who is no longer interested in trying to pursue women who don't want them, saying that you should not buy it if you have a wife and family, because you will apparently no longer care about them, only the succubus. Number 9, Dawn. This doll was purchased by 2 paranormal investigators when they were contacted by a family who had originally bought the doll for their daughter at a garage sale. The doll had apparently started to talk to their daughter and she would wake up every night crying, them deciding they should probably get rid of it. Since owning the doll, the paranormal investigators had apparently run a variety of tests and learned that the spirit was apparently very dark and malicious. When they were communicating with it, they say they saw a shadowy figure standing in the corner of the room and felt cold gusts of wind hitting their bodies. One of them got an intense pain in their head and it apparently hurt to try and open their eyes. When they were done and they finally were able to open them, it revealed a red spot where she appeared to be bleeding from her eye. It also apparently has the power to make you feel sick and mess with your electronics. Why you would want to buy this, I don't know. Number 8, Kneeling Boy. This one was purchased from a local estate sale by someone who was just looking to collect dolls, not knowing that the figure was haunted. They started noticing dark shadows in their home, glasses breaking in their hands, things being knocked off tables, and experiencing incredibly bad luck. So they handed them off to the current seller who is familiar with the paranormal. They noticed that their dog was cautious around the room the doll was kept in, and one day noticed their dog was struggling to breathe, and they saw that their collar had somehow been tightened all the way. The next person to go near the doll was their daughter, who started to feel a burning sensation on her arm, and it revealed a deep bleeding scratch. Over the next day, the energy in the house felt angry and tense, and they noticed the strong smell of rotten eggs or sulfur, which is a common sign that demons are around. They are selling it with the hopes that the spirit is not completely evil, but just doesn't want to be around them specifically. Number 7, Renee. This doll was purchased from an online auction and was originally found in a church donation box. The people there having no idea where it came from, as it just seemed to appear one day. When they brought it into their home, their pets were immediately wary of it and avoided any room that the doll was in. They also noticed that whenever they left it alone, all the other dolls they owned would be found fallen over or even smashed. When they attempted to communicate with the doll through a spirit box, all their phones started flashing off and on, and one even died despite being at a full charge. When they asked it questions, all they got in response were deep growling sounds. But when they asked if it was a good or evil spirit, it responded with darkness, probably not good. During the communication, they could hear their dogs crying and whimpering from where they had hidden themselves away upstairs. Number 6, Monica. This doll came from a group of 4 dolls that were all owned by an elderly woman. She would apparently call the dolls her friends and handmade the clothes for them and would have full conversations with them every day. When she passed away, the dolls ended up in new hands. Throughout the night that they brought Monica home, they apparently started having severe headaches and upset stomachs. And when they tried to sleep, they had strange dreams and were woken up constantly. Their cats also apparently being incredibly fearful of the doll. Many people think that cats are able to sense things that we can't. When they communicated with the doll, they asked if she had been causing the headaches and other symptoms, and she spoke through the spirit box saying, "I have." have. During this, on camera, they saw a shadowy figure run across the room, and at the same time an orb appeared to come out of the doll. They believe that Monica is confused and having a hard time adjusting to the fact that she's dead. Number 5. Twins. These two matching dolls are apparently not haunted by a human spirit, but instead something entirely different. When the two are together, it will apparently inhabit both of them, but when apart, it will become confused and jump between the two. The seller has claimed to communicate with it through both a Ouija board and a pendulum. The entity apparently will answer in a mix of words and gibberish, but when asked what it was, it responded with Satan and the devil. It doesn't seem to be overly active, as they don't describe much about what the entity is capable of, just saying that they have seen dark shadows and orbs around the doll and will apparently hear a strange sound that is similar to gurgling water. They note in the description that a spirit will choose its keeper, and if you feel inexplicably drawn to it, then you are lucky, but be careful as you may not be able to handle it. Number 4. Cuddles. This video has already been bad enough if you're scared of dolls, and I'm about to make it even worse if you're scared of clowns too. This totally friendly and absolutely not terrifying little guy is called Cuddles. Apparently he's not actually an evil spirit and is more just a goofy little guy who wants to play tricks on you. He will apparently flicker lights on and off and play other pranks, though the seller doesn't specify what else he'll do, saying that's up to the new owner to find out. They can apparently often see mists, auras, and orbs around him when they take photos, and will hear footsteps coming from the room he's kept in. I guess he's just walking around and doing a little clown dance or something. At the end of the description, they quickly tack on the fact that they will occasionally hear a spooky evil laugh, but then go on to say he's just a fun little guy to have in your home. So you're definitely taking a risk on this one. Number 3. Faye. This doll was originally purchased at an estate sale where she was apparently owned by the family's mother. When they would visit, they would report hearing full-on conversations coming from their mother's room, but only her and the dolls would be inside. Apparently, they would also occasionally see the doll's facial expression change right before their eyes. When they brought the doll home, they would hear movement coming from the room she was in, and it seemed to be able to mess with their electronics, setting off their phones. When they communicated with the doll through a spirit box, it apparently said that it wanted to fight with them, followed by a growling sound. As they were packing everything up, the spirit box set off with the word Hain, and they heard footsteps in the room and also saw a figure on their camera. It apparently carries a heavy negative energy, and they keep it locked outside in their shed. Number 2. Chloe. Despite looking the most fearsome, Chloe is the only one on this list to be inhabited by an apparently totally friendly and nice spirit. She was reportedly owned by the seller's aunt, who had a large collection of haunted dolls. She doesn't know the full story of the doll or the spirit, and just has a brief description that was left behind by her aunt. It says that she was a young, beautiful girl that was alive in the late 1800s or early 1900s. The doll apparently brings peace and a positive energy into the home with a kind presence. She's also apparently known to make small movements and occasionally speak in a whispering voice. During her mortal life, she was apparently a girl who had a very traumatic death and her body was never found. She will also reportedly make you have very positive and pleasant dreams. I'm sure you're a nice girl and all, Chloe, but your face is just a little terrifying. Number 1. Cora. This is another doll that was found at an estate sale and was listed as being evil. The family had apparently never even known that they owned the doll. They found it when cleaning out their mom's belongings, where it was hidden under old blankets and appeared to be wrapped in an altar cloth from their church. It apparently exuded a dark energy, and they remembered their mom often talking about dark forces being on Earth. When they started attempting to communicate with the doll, its eyes would apparently appear to move and look at different people in the room. Over the spirit box, it said it hated them and wanted to hurt them. As it said this, one of them felt a burning sensation on their back, and they saw deep red scratches that seemed to appear before their eyes. When asked if the doll had ill intent, it said the end is near. When they removed the doll from the home, the negative energy and feeling inside apparently lasted for days afterwards.
In our number 10 spot, we have the Donald Trump mask. It's probably cursed because along with how funny it is, it's also terrifying. Imagine seeing someone wear this walk by you. If they had, a similar build to him and they wore like a turtleneck, then I would probs think it was him. The extremely orange face with the white eyes is too much. Too funny and terrifying at the same time. In our number 9 spot, we have a zombie mug. Merch like this makes me terrified but also excited. This mug is super creepy though, and most definitely cursed. This is a mug that, when heated, a zombie appears in the cup with blood on its hands. The zombie's face is quite chilling, that it actually feels like there's some kind of spirit attached to it. Anyone else? The zombie is also like pretty bloody too, no thanks. Definitely stay away from this product unless you like dealing with dark spirits, then by all means go for it. In our number 8 spot, we have the faceless carving. This is an item of a mother and daughter hugging. That's a carving made of willow tree. The only thing is, the mother and daughter do not have faces. Look, I love my mom. She's one of my best friends, and I love cheesy lovey-dovey products to show that you love someone, but this isn't the one. I don't know, man. Seeing this, I got the instant creeps, and I personally think this item might be haunted. There's so much detail in the figurine. Why leave the faces blank? From what I've gathered, there are a lot of items similar to this made from a brand called Willow Tree, and honestly, I think their intention seems to be to make some sort of comforting merch. At least that's what they say in their marketing. But personally, there's something spooky about these figurines without faces. Faceless items just feel too horror movie for me. Quite possibly haunted and therefore cursed. In our number 7 spot, we have the creepy pen holder. Okay, so this item is just creepy. It's a pen holder with a little red man figurine lying on the floor, and the hole where you put your pen in is right in its heart. Who the heck thought of this? What was their thought process? Who were they imagining this guy to be? And why don't they have better friends to say, hey man, maybe don't make such a low vibe product? The world is low vibe enough these days. This item is not cursed in your typical ghostly way, but it definitely is just low vibes to begin with, so anyone who buys it is sure to continue the low vibe train and sit in a bit of a crappy headspace. In our number 6 spot, we have the LED mask. Look, I'm conflicted. On one hand, this is kinda cool to look at first, if you're into LEDs. On the other, it's very creepy, and also it can't be good to wear LEDs so close to your face, can it? I don't know. I don't know much about electricity and lights, but something makes me nervous about wearing lights on my face, and I'm concerned that no one even asked the seller about that. The mask itself is also the face of something out of a nightmare, so there's also that. I could see a John Wayne Gacy of this time using this mask while plotting his next kill, and that just gives me the shivers, not gonna lie. With its creepiness and the fact that it's probably not very safe to wear LEDs on your face, at least for long, I'm gonna go ahead and say that this product may curse you with some kind of low vibe situation in your future if bought. In our number 5 spot, we have a kitty salt and pepper holder. Look, I'm a cat and dog person. I love them both. I sway a little more on the dog side, but whatever, they tend to give you more love. Anyways, my point is that I love all cat and dog merch, but this is terrifying. This is a cat salt and pepper shaker that could have been made cute and adorable, but it looks like it may possess you. First off, the cat is dark gray with shades of black. Could they have not made him white or orange or give him a cute yellow collar? Anyways, it's really the face that's terrifying. Couldn't they have modeled the face off of the cat from Shrek? It's so cute with the big eyes. No, they made the cat look like it will probably eat you while you're sleeping. In our number 4 spot, we have the toilet mug. I'm throwing this one on the list because it's clearly cursed to make you want to throw up every time you have your morning cup of tea. This is a toilet tea mug. I can't. Just why? If you are someone watching this and you have bought this item, please explain in the comment section below. It's just so beyond gross. It's definitely a funny gift, but also a waste because it's so gross that I just can't imagine anyone drinking from it and not feeling like they must now run to the real toilet. Anyways, if anything, I want to argue that it's cursed with not being used much and definitely will make people feel ill. In our number 3 spot, we have the Let's Summon Demons shirt. Let's not. Maybe let's go outside and play in the grass under the sun, or make chalk drawings on the pavement, or beat Pokemon Gold again like it's 2002 and do everything but summon demons, okay? Why is there a shirt that is encouraging people to summon demons? Clearly the creator that made it was being possessed by demons himself or herself, and the demons gathered together to plan how they can possess more people, and alas, came upon the plan of encouraging people to summon them through a t-shirt with cute humans holding hands while standing on a giant pentagram. In our number 2 spot, we have a satanic ring. Whether you're religious or not, I'm sure you can look at this product and feel uneasy. It's a gold-plated stainless steel ring that has a devil skeleton with a cross on its forehead. It's extremely dark. Anything to do with the devil just makes me uneasy, but honestly, there's nothing about this product that feels positive. Even as a Halloween ring, I feel like it's just too much. The vibe around it is quite low, and I'm pretty convinced that anyone that buys it will be doomed to feeling low while wearing it. Could be just me, but I believe that we should be careful with what we put on us, as objects carry energy, and even if you got someone to cleanse an object, something like this, you'll always know that its maker had low vibe intentions when creating it, so therefore it could always possibly be low vibes. In our number 1 spot, we have the Furby doll. Guys, stay away from this doll. I had to put this in first because I had so many creepy situations that happened with this doll that I'm convinced it's possessed. Also, it's not just me. Literally, this was trending a few years ago where people told their possessed Furby doll experiences, and I instantly felt more creeped out as that totally confirmed my own experiences. Literally, I would be talking to my mom and the doll would say something that would be in response to what we were talking about. Or it would just, make noise or blink when the battery wasn't in it. I'm telling ya, this item is not to be played with. If you have a haunted Furby story, oh my gosh, please share in the comment section below. We want to hear it. Coming up in our number 10 spot, we have Musée de Horreur Octopus Man. That's my French accent for ya. It failed. This is a poster that honestly gave me the creeps to look at, which is my sign for the fact that it's cursed. This is a replica of a French poster from 1899. This poster is of a man that is seemingly half man, half octopus. The man is also wearing an eye patch and looks quite stern, so overall, the vibe of this picture is just low. Not to mention, it's literally called the Museum of Horrors, so that just sets the tone for you to be scared. Words are powerful, folks. In our number 9 spot, we have the Jeffrey Dahmer blade. This is one of the most chilling items that I found. This is a kitchen cooking blade that has the face of known killer Jeffrey Dahmer. Why does this product even exist? I don't understand, people. Jeffrey Dahmer is known for being a cannibal, and so this product just pushes the envelope a little too much for me. Upon inspecting the item, I noticed that 6 people bought it and 45 people are watching the item. Who are these 6 people and 45 watchers? I demand a reason for buying this item. Unless it is for Halloween purposes. Actually, no. Even still, this is too dark. Imagine the headspace you have to be in to even think of this item. I'm scared. Let's move on. In our number 8 spot, we have the angry baby face. Maybe it's because I'm creeping up on my motherhood years, or maybe it's because this is genuinely supremely creepy. I'm really unsure, but would love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. This is an angry baby face mask. Actually, it's a collection of baby face masks with an angry version, a crying version, and a happy version, and all of them are quite disturbing. I think the happy version is the most nerve-wracking, to be honest. The baby looks like Gollum when he finally has the ring in his hands. I think the eyes are possibly the worst part, so big and grayish blue. I'm concerned that 48 people bought this, but whatever. In our number 7 spot, we have the pig mask. Has anyone ever seen the show Black Mirror? And the first episode is with the politician and the pig? Yep, quite the disturbing show, and not gonna lie, ever since that episode I've had a hard time with pigs. Actually, that's a lie. I just have never liked pigs that much, if I'm being honest. The only pig that I ever loved was from the movie Babe. Okay, fine, and the one from Charlotte's Web. Anyways, this is a mask of an angry pig. Guys, did you know that pigs sometimes eat their babies? Pigs are scary, okay? This mask gives me the creeps, and it's absolutely cursed. 43 people have bought this item. Correction, 43 sociopaths have bought this item. In our number 6 spot, we have the family heirloom. This is a ring that is pretty creepy to look at. It's quite old and worn out, and is supposedly an heirloom to the Borgia family, a prominent Italian family. This heirloom is a piece that dates back to the 1600s. It is also a piece of jewelry that is said to be haunted, as it was a part of an Ed and Lorraine case at one point in its history, and the case dealt with a lot of suffering. The ring is made of gold, and the stones have not been identified. I've never seen a stone like it. It almost looks otherworldly. The ring has a set price of, wait for it, $3,000 US. A lot of money to spend on a possession that is definitely cursed. In our number 5 spot, we have Aladdin's lamp. This item is probably cursed, but also it's really cool, so I'm conflicted as to how I feel about it. I was a hardcore Aladdin fan, not gonna lie, and I have to admit, Aladdin was definitely my first crush. He's a dreamer who does what he can to make his dreams happen, so gotta love that in a man. Anyways, this lamp speaks to me. Does that mean whatever is haunting it is speaking to me? Does that mean I'm already being tricked? Anyways, very confusing. The seller of this lamp claims it to be haunted, as well as that it possesses powers. It's also really dirty. Not sure if this seller decided to leave it dirty so that it looks like it came straight out of the desert of Agrabah, but I don't understand. Like, why couldn't you have wiped it down, like, even a little? My cleaning OCD is acting up, so let's move on. In our number 4 spot today, we have a haunted ring. The title of this product is literally Haunted Ring, so do we think it's cursed? I'm leaning towards yes. This might be the spookiest ring that I have ever seen. It has a brassy look to it with what looks like a bird at the top, then honestly what looks like stitching or maybe a tally of something underneath, and then the letters ROM and some more stitching or tallying of something. It's so strange. Upon further investigation, apparently there is supposed to be an A at the end of the ROM, meaning it's supposed to spell out Roma, and apparently this is a ring that was made for a man for his wife named Roma, who was a survivor of World War II. Dark. Honestly, if this was a gesture of love, couldn't he have just written I love you? Some men need guidance. In our number 3 spot, we have the clown painting. This is a painting of a clown that literally looks like it's looking into your soul. Or perhaps it's looking into your ear and getting ready to pull a coin out of it, but regardless, I'm scared. It's cursed. There's clearly a spirit attached to this painting. This painting is from the 60s, and I truly wonder who in the world bought this painting back then. Also, I want to know where in the house this painting would be hung if bought, because I don't think there is a room that it would not be creepy in. Unless you had a room of clown merch, then perhaps it wouldn't be as creepy. It would just add to the collective creep vibe, but still, if you have a happy clown story and are convinced you can make me less scared of clowns, please share it with me in the comment section below. In our number 2 spot, we have this old Ouija board. This one might be a given, as it's literally a tool to talk to the dead, but whatever, I had to put it on the list because it's clearly cursed and we should definitely stay away from this item. This is a very old version of the board that has probably passed through the hands of many in its time, and it is so dark and spooky looking that it just gives me the creeps. When people play Ouija, they could be talking to good or bad spirits, and they say that the bad ones can actually attach to you if you're not careful. I truly wish this game came with a list of player stories so people could be aware of how psychologically damaging it can be. I had a very dark experience with this game, so definitely stay away and do not buy it. In our number 1 spot, we have the Illuminati New World Order card game. Okay, I had to put this one in first because it's honestly intense. This is a card game that was invented in 1994 by an artist named Steve Jackson. This isn't just any card game though. Oh no, this is a card game that has predicted a lot of crazy events that have happened in world history. There's too many predictions to count at this point, but the very fact that it was invented in 1994 and there is literally a card with 2 buildings and 1 exploding, similar to a certain attack that happened in 2001 in New York City, is mind-blowing. This deck is called the Illuminati New World Order, which makes you wonder, was this a prophetic game? Or was this quite possibly made by an insider that was subtly warning the world of what is to come? In any case, this item is definitely cursed as the cards keep coming true, so beware.
At number 10, we have the Anguished Man painting. This was a pretty famous painting that has been floating around eBay for a long time. There are several stories that go along with this painting. Some say that the painting is haunted, that some sort of spirit is attached to it, and whoever buys the painting will be tormented by the spirit until they sell it off to the next person. I've also read that the painting was actually made using human blood, possibly blood from the unknown artist, or other people think it could have been some of his victims. Some people speculate that this could have been some sort of serial killer or kidnapper that would use his victim's blood to make his art. That's pretty dark stuff. It could be the spirit of one of these tormented souls that is attached to the painting. Regardless whether or not these stories are true, the painting is very creepy. The entire look of the thing has the feeling of pain and horror. So maybe it's just people's imagination getting a little out of hand with the mystery surrounding this painting and creating a fake backstory, or maybe the tales are true and this piece has a dark curse. At number 9, we have the Cursed Clown Puppet. The title alone looks like you clicked on a horror movie title generator and this was the best one that popped up. But this item was purchased off the internet by YouTuber A Magical Life. She looks into all sorts of paranormal and supernatural items. At first glance it seems kind of creepy. When you mix clowns and puppets, they're never a welcoming item. But then things ramp up a little bit when it seems like the puppet scratches her arm. Now let's be clear, the puppet is locked away in a glass case, but while she's filming it, she feels something hot on her arm and then she realizes that there are some scratch marks. Now realistically this could have all been faked, you never know what people are going to do for views, but I've watched the video a few times and it seems somewhat genuine. At number 8, we have the Ring of the Genie Queen. There was a ring posted on eBay that looked just like a normal ring, but the seller claimed that the ring was inhabited by the soul of a genie queen. I didn't even know that genies had monarchy, but apparently they do. If you purchase the ring, it said that the genie queen attached to it will be able to give you unlimited wishes, which is most likely a massive lie. There is no way that unlimited wishes come without a cost. That is why I put it on this list. Nice try, genie ring. I'm gonna get my wishes granted the old-fashioned way, when I blow out the candles on my birthday cake like a good boy. At number 7, we have the African Gula chest. Now what is a Gula chest? Well, think of it as a Ghostbuster trap. You can lock away an evil spirit inside of it and then give one of these to your worst enemy as a birthday present. The strange thing about the Gula chest is that it was up on eBay and it came with an evil spirit already inside it. Now why would you want something like that? I feel like you should buy this thing when it's empty. But at the same time, I guess if you did want to give it to someone, this does kind of cut out the middleman. You don't have to go hunt down a ghost like you're on a C-tier A&E show. But buying the pre-demonized chest just seems like you're asking for trouble. If it's any consolation, the chest is only $150, which seems like a very low price to buy something from another world. At number 6, we have the Crying Boy painting. The story of the Crying Boy painting is that it was painted by an Italian artist after he saw a boy crying alone in the street. Little did he know that the boy was crying because his family had just died in a fire. Now it's said that whoever owns the painting will have their house burned down. There have been reports of homes burning to the ground and the painting being the only thing left unburnt. That is very creepy. Someone by the name of Tonya Rose posted one of the most interesting cursed items I have ever heard about. At number 5, we have a cursed sexy bra. Now this item isn't for sale anymore, but while it was, it had a pretty interesting description. Apparently the bra had a seductive spirit attached to it, which was highly sexual in nature. I want you guys to know I'm not making this up. This was really posted. It was said if you wear the bra, you would embody the power of the spirit and start to get gifts from all sorts of people people around you. Not a bad idea if you ask me. The post said that the bra was made in the 1950s and is for someone of the bust size of 32A. So if you got big boobies, this bra won't work for you. You're gonna have to find another way to get free stuff. And that's not all the spectral bra has to offer. You can also meet the sexy ghost that is attached to it. There are two options. You could light a white candle and you will see the ghost in its entirety. But if you take option 2 and light a red candle, you can have a sexual encounter with the ghost. What that means, I don't know, but I'm sure you can piece it together for yourself. I don't know what ghost sex is like. At number 4, we have a cursed book. Out of all the cursed items you can come across, cursed books kind of creep me out the most. I always think of an Evil Dead situation, like if you read from the book, a great evil will follow you, and these cursed books don't make me feel any better about the situation. The YouTuber Soul Reaper Paranormal saw some creepy books online that the owner claimed had a spirit attached to them. If you want to up the creepy factor, these weren't picture books or something childish, they were Bibles. Yeah, cursed Bibles. No thank you. Well, Soul Reaper wanted to check out the legitimacy of these curses, so he decided he would ask the spirit to do something to show that the curse was real.
Give me some sort of sign, either a knock or a voice, come and speak into that camera. Oh my god!
Yeah, that's enough for me. I don't need that anymore. Nope, that's enough curses. Thanks, bye. On to the next one. That's creeping me out. At number 3, we have Eve the Evil Doll. I'm surprised it took us this long to get to an evil doll. This one has a particularly dark story. It's said that the soul attached to this doll is that of a vengeful sister. She was in love with a man who didn't feel the same way about her. Instead, he was in love with her sister. And before the two could run off together, Eve tracked them down and stabbed them both to death. Eve then took her own life while holding the doll, and her soul was so angry that it attached itself to the doll and refuses to move on. Now everyone who comes in contact with this doll gets horrible migraines. If you want to test this theory, you can find Eve being sold online for $1,666. So you really have to want it to know if this curse is real. At number 2, we have Undertaker glasses. There was a set of glasses that were put on eBay that were said to have a ton of angry spirits attached to them. How big of a jerk do you have to be to have an army of souls following your glasses? Well, you need to be the kind of prick who doesn't want anyone to rest in peace for whatever reason. This Undertaker would clip off the eyelids of everyone he worked on before he laid them to rest. This way their eyes would stay open, and apparently this means the person's spirit would never move on to the other side. Some people speculate that the glasses had hundreds of ghosts attached to them. There was even a rumor that if you put them on, you could see the faces of everyone this Undertaker had forced to stand in limbo. If this is all true, this guy better hope these ghosts don't catch him in the afterlife. There would be one hell of an ass whooping waiting for him on the other side. At number 1, we have more haunted dolls. So these dolls were purchased off of eBay, and instead of giving you a full breakdown, let's just get right into this video clip. I don't know if you saw that, but there's some glowing orbs and dotted patterns flying away from these dolls. This was set up by YouTuber Cybernova. She had a night vision camera on these dolls and also a motion detector set on them. This would send alerts directly to her phone, and she got a ton of them. At the beginning, she also asked a few questions to the dolls using copper rods to see if the rods would start moving, and every time she asked a question, one of these rods would fly all over the place, which kicks up the creepy factor a lot.
Coming up in our number 10 spot, we have the Trilogy of Terror doll. This doll is horrifying. This is a doll that was made for a TV horror movie called Trilogy of Terror from 1975 that was based off of the work of writer Richard Matheson. In this movie, there was a doll that was called the Zuni Warrior doll. It is also known as the doll called He Who Kills. In the movie, the doll is basically haunting the main character around her apartment. The doll is most known for its vampire shark teeth. Lovely. So scary. In our number 9 spot, we have the Poltergeist clown. This one is an evil clown doll. Is this the winner? I'm convinced that there's nothing scarier than a clown doll. This is a doll famously known from the 1980s movie Poltergeist. In the movie, the doll pops up in one of the scariest scenes where the film's ghost possesses the clown and makes him attack one of the characters named Robbie. Apparently, this scene from Poltergeist inspired director James Wan, who ended up producing Annabelle. It inspired him so much that he says it is what sent him down the path toward all things evil doll puppet related. Funny, the idea of a possessed clown doll makes me think that I'll never watch a movie like this ever again. Quite the opposite reaction. In our number 8 spot, we have Fats. Fats is the name of a very creepy wooden dummy doll that was basically the star of the movie Magic from 1978. The movie makers of this time were definitely going through some kind of weird doll phase. The movie centers around the character that Anthony Hopkins portrays, who is a ventriloquist who comes into fame and fortune when he appears on TV with the doll. Off air, the doll is of course psychotic and domineering and is driving Anthony's character Corky insane. It seems like quite the psychological thriller that is perfect for all of you psychological thriller lovers. Yep, that's all I've got. In our number 7 spot, we have the Molly Dolly. This one might not be as known, but if you were a fan of the 90s show Sabrina the Teenage Witch, then you will definitely remember this very creepy doll. This is a doll that was featured in the season 3 Halloween episode. The doll was called the Molly Dolly, and that's how it sounded. And this doll and its voice were terribly creepy. It was creepy because it looked so sweet. Like too sweet. Sweeter than all the other dolls on this list, and you thought, that's not a threat. But then of course, it changed and started to haunt the characters on the show, saying things like, "I'm gonna get you." My adult self is more afraid of this doll than my child self because this doll represents so many people in real life that appear kind, but it's really just a facade. In our number 6 spot, we have Billy from Dead Silence. This is a doll named Billy that was in another James Wan movie called Dead Silence. In this movie, Billy is one of the many dolls owned by the character Mary Shaw, who happens to be a ventriloquist, of course. I really would love to study the mind of a ventriloquist or a clown and get to the root of what makes them like this profession, because it's fascinating to me to wonder about. Maybe I'm just too heavily influenced by Hollywood, but they really do seem like the creepiest jobs. Is it just me? Anyways, Billy ends up being the key to Mary's power, and it's really just super creepy. Perfect if you want to get into the Halloween spirit though. In our number 5 spot, we have G.I. Joe Extra. In the British cult classic Extra from 1982, there is a G.I. Joe doll that becomes life-sized and goes after an elderly woman. This scene is ridiculously creepy, of course, with the doll's face being so glossy and him walking around the house in a doll-like manner, going after the poor old woman. It's sad and terrifying. Whoever wrote this scene definitely created it when they themselves played with their G.I. Joe doll as kids. Perhaps they were angry at their grandmother and they thought this scene up. That sounds like something a kid would do. In our number 4 spot, we have the Pin Doll. The Pin Doll is a super creepy, anatomically correct medical doll from the Canadian movie Pin from 1988. In this movie, Pin's owner believes him to be alive, even though we, the audience, know that it's all in his head. Pin is basically bare for so much of the movie, and you can see his muscles as he's a medical doll, and for anyone who just feels uncomfortable or queasy looking at anything without skin, this will be no exception. Anyways, this doll can walk, talk, and kill, and with its glossy face, it's just all around pretty scary to think about and look at. In our number 3 spot, we have Dolly Dearest. Dolly Dearest is a 1991 horror movie classic where, after a toy manufacturer buys the Dolly Dearest factory in Mexico, a possessed doll tries to control his daughter. The doll holds a very devil-like spirit, the spirit of Sanzia. This is every young person's biggest nightmare, although I must say I was way more worried about the monsters under my bed. But to imagine my baby dolls being possessed and trying to hurt me, it's just truly terrifying. The face that Molly has once she's possessed is pretty scary. Just looking at those big blue eyes that clearly show that evil is behind them just makes you want to run away and yell, "Mommy!" Only me? Probably. In our number 2 spot, we have Billy from Saw. Yeah, I watched one of the Saws and it was so scary and uncomfortable that I will never watch another. Although I'm a wimp most days, so there's that. But come on, Billy from Saw is terrifying. With his red eyes and spiral cheeks and light greeny gray skin and his suit with a red tie, he's just straight out of one of my childhood nightmares. That and the fact that he's a brutal killer too and plays with his prey. I really debated about putting this one first, but I think the first place one had to be a classic doll that everyone is scared of. Which brings me to our number 1 spot, Chucky. Of course. I mean, I feel like this one needs no explanation because it's one of Hollywood's most famous killer dolls. Starting off in a movie called Child's Play, Chucky was so popular that they ended up naming the rest of the movies in the series after him, which makes sense. Then people know what to look forward to. If you haven't watched Chucky or any of the movies with Chucky, all you really need to know is that he is a serial killer possessed doll, most notably known for his red hair. Hey, a redhead with no soul? Classic. Well, I guess technically he had a soul, but it was possessed? Wait, no, he was a doll. He was just plastic until he was possessed. That phrase still rings true.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the statue. This statue, or bust, is said to have been made by a man named William who enjoyed making these sorts of things out of clay. Unfortunately, however, legend goes that this specific statue was made on the same day that William was crushed to death during a tragic work accident. A co-worker of his who showed up to work the following day found that this statue was still there, so he took it home with him. For a while, he kept the statue hidden, but when he took it out to display it, things started to go awry. It started with just a heavy and uninviting feeling, but soon things escalated. He began to hear doors slamming on their own, only to go and find them wide open. If anything was placed next to the statue, the next time he would find it completely shattered, and at one point he found the statue in a position that he never placed it in. He finally had the last straw when he saw a dark, shadowy figure, or a sort of mist, moving around near where he placed the statue. After this, he was so spooked he had a friend list the item for him on eBay because he just simply needed to get rid of it. In our number 9 spot today, we have Uluru Rock. Uluru Rock is a large sandstone formation that is located in the southern part of the Northern Territory in Australia. It is sometimes known as Ayers Rock, but regardless of what it is called, this area is sacred for the people indigenous to the land. This is part of the reason that those who visit the rock are asked to not take anything from the site. Despite this, people of course still choose to smuggle pieces of the rock out of the area and home with them. Other than the bad karma and just in general feeling like a bad person for doing the one thing you're asked not to do, as it turns out this rock may hold a more sinister secret. Those who have stolen rocks from the Uluru have experienced things like extremely bad luck, severe illness, and sometimes even the death of those they love. The curse these rocks hold is seemingly so bad that it is very common for the company that runs the tours of the formation to receive letters of apology that contain the stolen rocks. Apparently these letters come so often, at least one a day is expected. Maybe this is a weird coincidence, but it seems to be happening a little too often for that to be the explanation. In our number 8 spot today, we have the beds. Back in 1986, couple Deborah and Alan Tallman moved into a new home with their children in Wisconsin. The following year, they bought a second-hand set of bunk beds for their kids for $100, but as it would turn out, they bought much more than they had originally bargained for. When they brought the bunk beds into their home, they clearly must have brought something else along with it. It started when they began to see strange shapes in their home, and they would hear disembodied voices that, despite how hard they tried, they could not find the source of. They found themselves fighting with clocks and radios that turned on by themselves, they would find furniture that had moved seemingly all by itself, and sometimes they'd even see an apparition of an old woman. In the end, they not only threw the beds in the landfill, but they also moved from the home just to be safe. As far as we know, the beds remained in the landfill, but who's to say for sure? In our number 7 spot today, we have the Crying Children paintings. These paintings were a series created by an Italian painter who was known as Giovanni Bregolin, but his name was really Bruno Amarillo. Bruno was born in Venice in 1911 and fought in World War II, which ended up being the inspiration for a lot of his paintings. During his time in the war, he saw a lot of suffering, and this is where he got the idea for the series of Crying Children paintings. After the paintings were sold, there began to be reports of fires in all of the places where the paintings were held. While this could have just been a strange coincidence, the weirdest part is that the paintings always remained intact while everything else around them was burned. This quickly became the most talked about thing and was on the front of every newspaper, and the paintings quickly gained the nickname Diablo. It caused the paintings to end up being replicated and mass produced, but none of the replicas hold quite the same powers as the originals. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Goddess statue. The Goddess of Death statue is was also known as the Woman from the Lem. This artifact was made out of limestone, and it was created somewhere around 3500 BC and was found in Cyprus in 1878. Over the years, it has belonged to many different families who all have been ruined and dismantled by death. After the first 6 years of ownership, all 7 members of the first family died. It then moved on to a second owner, and after 4 years, death began to come to him and his family as well. There was then a long period where it was unclaimed, but once the third family finally got a hold of it, several members of that family began to die as well. The third family ended up turning it over to the Royal Scottish Museum because it is of course an ancient relic, but legend goes that the museum curator who initially took care of it died within a year of receiving it. So maybe the curse lives on. In our number 5 spot today we have the goblet. This is an item that was found in a museum, but it was a museum of specifically haunted things, so I feel like it still counts. This goblet is said to have been used for rituals of necromancy, which poses a few questions for me personally. What did they put in it and presumably drink out of it? Holy water? Wine? Blood? All the above? Who knows? Either way, here's the real kicker. This goblet was of course for sale on eBay because why not? And the seller was claiming that it has an amazing energy to it. Okay. What kind of energy? Well, they said that some find it strangely positive, but that many perceive it as negative and malignant. Alright. Don't think I'll be bidding on that auction, to be perfectly honest. In our number 4 spot today we have the Surrey ghost car. On December 11th, 2002, a call came into the Surrey Police Department. The caller reported that they had just seen a car lose control and run off the road and then presumably crash. It was of course an emergency call, but not necessarily anything out of the ordinary. That was until authorities got to the location and realized that they couldn't find any evidence of a crash. They kept searching and ended up finding a maroon colored car that was nose down in a ditch nearby, but this car was covered in so much undergrowth that it must have been here for months. This meant that somehow this crash went undetected for 5 months, and worst of all, so did the body that lay nearby. Using dental records, they were able to identify the body as a man who had been wanted for robbery since July of that year. It is said that the sighting of the car leaving the road was a ghostly replay of the events that had taken place 5 months prior. In our number 3 spot today we have doorknobs. To be honest, I wasn't expecting to ever hear about haunted doorknobs, but this might just be a thing that really does exist. These doorknobs were listed on eBay, and the seller explained that they were once the knobs seen on the doors at an asylum, which truly lands on the list of creepiest places in the world. Considering everything that is said to have gone on at places like these, it truly doesn't surprise me one bit. We're looking at you, lobotomies and other horrific mental health treatments of the past. These doorknobs must have quite literally opened the door to some terrifying things that I'm sure many of us would prefer to not even think about. According to the eBay listing, the asylum that they came from after it was abandoned is said to have had strange whispers, occurrences, and horrifying noises coming from it. This is all to say that maybe that trip to Home Depot is better than buying antique. Just this one time. In our number 2 spot today we have the Nightmare Doll. Haunted dolls like Annabelle and even Robert get a lot of hype, but they certainly aren't the only dolls with stories of curses and hauntings behind them. This Nightmare Doll was listed for sale on eBay, and according to the seller, the doll is possessed by a Dybbuk, which is a malicious demon or entity. The seller of the doll is actually someone who apparently specializes in selling these sort of paranormal items that no one wants anymore. The seller explained that the owner of the doll bought it at an antique shop, and while they did tell her about what the doll held, she didn't know what the word meant, so she took it anyways. Soon after purchasing it, she realized that anyone who came into contact with the doll was then plagued with terrifying nightmares and occurrences of these sort of shadow people. She only could handle this all for a couple of months before she handed the doll over for it to be sold and moved far, far away from her. In our number 1 spot today we have the carving. This is a carving that was sold on eBay in 2013, which the sellers claimed had been in their family for over 60 years. It was originally found by the seller's grandparents in the attic of their home. This was back in the 1950s, and when it was found, the grandparents asked the original owners of the home where it had come from. They explained that it was a gift from a prisoner who is said to have carved it. The seller explained in their post that, quote, anyone who comes in contact with it seems to feel strange or creeped out by it. The statue mostly didn't cause too much harm. That was until the seller tried to put it on display in their home. Once it was taken out of an old box and placed in a cabinet, strange occurrences began. They said that, quote, I began to experience the television turning off and on, lights coming on in rooms no one was in, the kids' toys coming on in the middle of the night in their room at 3 a.m. At the end of the day, despite the troubles this person had with the statue, they still ended up selling it for $85 $25. Not a bad deal. Get rid of a demon and gain some cash for it.
Number 10, Han Solo. No, Han Solo did not get possessed, he was the thing doing the possessing. One look at this Stormtrooper toy is already enough to make you feel like it's cursed. Han Solo's lifeless eyes staring out into space are enough to put you on edge. And as much as I thought Harrison Ford was a hottie in the movies, I just can't get past those eyes. So take in its unsettling visual appearance and then the way it apparently haunts the people who own it. The person selling it said that when they came into ownership of the toy, they started experiencing strange and terrifying things. That's because there is apparently a spirit trapped inside the toy who perished in a house fire, his soul coming to possess the Stormtrooper. As a result, anyone who owns the toy will be haunted by hallucinations of a house on fire, and you apparently can't escape it when you go to sleep either. It will reportedly give you nightly nightmares of the man who died screaming while the house around him is engulfed in flames. Number 9, doorknobs. Asylums are often known as being incredibly haunted. This comes from the fact that many people believe ghosts and spirits come around from having a traumatic death or having unfinished business on Earth. With the history of mental health care practices as scary and unethical as it is, it's no wonder that these sort of places are busy with spiritual activity, especially after they've been shut down and abandoned. This seller on eBay had 2 doorknobs that he claimed to have taken from an abandoned asylum that apparently had many reports of strange noises and other paranormal activity taking place. These aren't just nice antique knobs, but instead hold the trauma of angry ghosts who will want to make your home as terrifying and haunted as the asylum they came from. The person who owned them said that doors in their home would often open without cause, and they could hear people's voices when nobody else was there. Number 8, teddy bear. While some haunted items may definitely look the part, being torn up, withered, and maybe having that soulless look in their eyes, there are some possessed artifacts that actually look pretty unassuming. For one, this adorable little teddy bear that I found. His name is Joshua and he's pretty cute, but he also apparently sets off EMF readers and is possessed by an angry, restless spirit. The people selling it found him at an estate sale, and apparently when they held the teddy bear, they immediately started to feel upset, overwhelmed, and anxious. They used a spirit box to try and communicate with whoever was possessing the doll, and it responded that he felt alone. Apparently being an old man who had recently passed away and has been unable to come to terms with the fact that they're dead. Because of this, they are apparently trying to latch on to someone to continue their life and not need to accept that they're dead. Number 7, haunted bra. Let's follow that up with something a little bit weirder. Not a haunted teddy bear, but instead a haunted bra. While possession is a big scary word, it may not always have to be a bad thing, as this item claimed. The person selling this size 32A bra says that it is haunted by a woman who lived a life of many romantic adventures and wild partying. When she died, she somehow attached her spirit to the bra. If you wear the bra, you will find yourself having the same romantic success that she did in her life. It's also said that if you light a candle by the bra, the woman's spirit will appear. And if the candle is red, the woman will possess you and you will have a quote, erotic encounter with the spiritual world. I'm not quite sure exactly what that would be and what it would include, but I'm about to place an Amazon order for a bulk pack of red candles for a totally unrelated reason. Number 6, anguished man. Haunted paintings are nothing new and have supposedly been around for centuries. So let's take a look at a few that have been put up for sale on eBay and have apparently come to haunt and possess those who own them. The first is called the Anguished Man painting, and it's honestly pretty horrifying. Definitely a man in anguish. The person selling it described it as a haunting paranormal portrait, and yeah, that seems pretty accurate. Here's how the seller described the painting affecting him. Since owning this painting, I have experienced a number of strange paranormal events that cannot be easily explained. These include hearing disembodied footsteps from elsewhere in the house, the sound of birdsong appearing out of the air in the living room, and finally observing a heavy metal door latch lift by itself and the kitchen door open by itself. He goes on to say that this is a great gift for a less than loved one. Number 5, the hands resist him. This painting is probably one of the most well-known haunted paintings. paintings. If you've been taking a drink every time I say haunted, I'm concerned for your health. The painting is titled The Hands Resist Him and shows a young boy with a large doll of a girl and disembodied hands reaching out behind them. A couple in California discovered the painting in a brewery but didn't keep it for long as they became convinced it had supernatural powers and was affecting their life, putting it up for sale on eBay. The listing included a warning that said, "This painting may or may not possess supernatural powers that could impact or change your life." The boy and girl in the painting would apparently fight each other, and at one point the boy reportedly vanished from the painting. It's also said that it will possess you and affect your mental health, as people who even just saw photos of the painting reported feeling sick and depressed. Number 4. Dybbuk box. A dybbuk, spelt with either a Y or an I, is a term from Jewish folklore that refers to a person's spirit that is stuck in purgatory, having the ability to possess items or even people. So the dybbuk box that this person is selling apparently has a person's spirit trapped inside. When he originally purchased it, they told him to never open it, but he didn't heed that warning and did it, keeping the box in his basement. Shortly afterwards, he returned to the basement and found that all of the lights had been smashed and there was an incredibly foul smell in the air. He didn't figure out that it was caused by the box at first, and so he ended up giving it as a gift to his mother. Soon after, his mother suffered from a massive stroke. In the hospital, she managed to write out the words "hate gift," referring to the box. Then everyone in his family started having the same recurring nightmare, and he finally decided that he needed to sell the box and remove its control from him and his family. Number 3. Carving. This eerie and sad-looking carved man was found by the seller's grandparents in the attic of their new home back in the 1950s. They asked the original owners where it had come from, and they said it was a gift from a prisoner who had carved it. The carving apparently became possessed, though whether it contained the spirit of the prisoner or somebody else, I don't know. Anybody who owned it would start experiencing strange occurrences around the home, and the spirit in the statue attempting to reach out and take over their body, not wanting to be trapped inside an inanimate object. The seller said that the television would turn on and off, lights would flicker, and kids' toys would turn on even if they contained no batteries. Anyone who came close to it would apparently experience strange feelings like the carving was attempting to communicate with them. Number 2. Haunted statue. Next up, we have another artistic piece that is apparently haunted by the restless and angry spirit of its deceased creator. The seller said that this piece was created by a man named William, who worked construction and would spend his spare time making statues out of clay. This specific statue, which is pretty creepy on its own by the way, was made the same day that William passed away in a freak accident on the construction site. When a co-worker later returned to the site, they saw that the statue was still there, so he decided to pick it up and take it home with him. As soon as he got home, strange things started happening. Doors would slam with no explanation, lights would turn on and off, decorations near the statue would be shattered and destroyed, and sometimes the statue would turn around and face different directions. He said he also felt unwell mentally and would sometimes see a strange shadow next to the statue, deciding he needed to be rid of it and putting it on eBay. Related anecdote from my childhood, when I was a kid I had a 2x4 piece of wood that I painted a face on and I named it Steve. And he was absolutely terrifying, so me and my siblings would hide him around the house, like in cupboards and under pillows, in order to freak each other out. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but I was a pretty weird kid. Number 1. Haunted dolls. Finally, we get to talk about the haunted dolls that will apparently try to ruin your life and possess you. In researching this video, I went down a rabbit hole and learned that there is an entire market on eBay dedicated to selling dolls that have apparently become the home of various different spirits. They are listed with what kind of spirit is inhabiting them, whether it be a happy one, an angry one, or even one with motherly intentions. The descriptions usually tell stories of where they found the doll, how the spirit died, and what things will happen to people who own it. They are also sometimes stated to be beginner friendly or not beginner friendly, I guess basing that on how much experience you have with dolls with ghosts inside of them. There are just so many of these strange and insane stories that range from terrifying to hilarious that I am actually going to be making a full top 10 video of just haunted eBay dolls, so if you're interested in that, keep your eye out over the next week.
So we have an African gula chest for sale, and this starts off on our list at number 10. So what you're looking at right here isn't just a typical wooden urn. Apparently this African gula chest has a ton of demonic energies trapped inside of it, and it's being sold by a Say Nick Minister on eBay. What happened to eBay? I remember going on eBay, it used to be like an innocent site. You could buy some bicycle tires on there, clothes, other accessories. So what the heck is a demonic box doing on eBay? If living dangerously is something that you like to do, then you might want to consider buying it. It could be yours for a low price of $150. The seller said that he will include a sealed document that tells you everything you need to know about this item, but all sales are final. He will not accept returns under any circumstances, even if you're haunted for the rest of your life. A haunted painting brings us to number 9. There are actually a ton of haunted paintings being sold on eBay right now, but this one seems to be the most terrifying one to me. The seller lives in New Orleans and he bought this from a friend. His friend decided to paint the demons that he saw in his house and then sell them for profits. Hopefully he was selling them so he can be able to afford to pay a priest, to come bless his house and perform an exorcism. But anyways, now this guy wants to get rid of this painting because it brought him nothing but pain and trouble. He said that since he brought the painting home, he has constantly been feeling unwell and he can't think straight and he always feels like something bad is about to happen. Such a bad feeling. So if you want all of these things to happen to you, you can place your bid starting at $125, or you could just skip the bidding and just buy it outright for $500. For $500. Popping into number 8 on our list, just like that, we have the monkey in the box. This is kind of like Jack in the Box, but possessed. Sounds like fun, right? I don't know, like what do you do? Like a monkey comes out and then boom, you're possessed for the rest of your life? Well, the owner says that sometimes the spirit will try to trick you and not let you open the box. It is also said that when you crank the handle, it will wake up the spirit that is connected with it. As you can see, the toy is really damaged from a bunch of people dropping it out of fear. The seller said that the spirit is known to be both playful and frightful, and that you should never ever give it to a child. If the spirit likes you, it will be playful, but if it doesn't like you, then it will make your life a living hell. There is no returns on this creepy item, so if you want to be plagued with this haunted monkey in a box, then place your bids now. Take the thrill of a lifetime. I don't know if I would consider that to be thrillful. A haunted mirror breaks onto this list at number 7. 2 roommates found this haunted mirror in the trash outside of their apartment building, and they decided to bring it in. That was probably the worst mistake that they could have done because it has brought them intense bad luck. Ever since this mirror was brought into their unit, the roommates claimed that they had extreme misery, financial problems, and illness. One of them even said that he would wake up screaming right in the middle of the night with stabbing pains. They've also experienced flickering lights, dark shadows appearing in the mirror, and orbs of light circling the room. I mean, no thanks. They believe that someone might have been murdered in front of the mirror, and that's why it is so evil. So the 2 of them have decided to auction off this mirror on eBay for £100. But I don't get it. If this mirror is bringing you nothing but bad luck, then why don't you just put it out there in the curb, maybe light it on fire, bury it? I don't know why they're trying to sell it to bring on all this bad stuff onto someone else, and all for £100. Haunted jewelry brings us to number 6. I personally don't know anyone who would willingly want to buy a piece of haunted jewelry, but as it turns out, there are literally hundreds of thousands of people on eBay trying to sell some of their creepy old haunted jewelry. Like, I kid you not. I get why you're trying to sell it. They don't want to be cursed and they want to try to make some profits, but who in their right mind would buy it? I came across a possessed ring being sold on eBay. According to the seller, the ring is possessed by an evil spirit named Aiden. He was 19 years old when he died in a motorcycle accident. Apparently he has the ability to turn on and off lights, close and open doors, and leaves a faint smell of men's cologne when he is active. I mean, that is pretty damn creepy if you ask me. It's like basically having a broken Alexa who keeps messing around with the lights, and you know what though, I wouldn't have to invest in any Febreze because this guy's just cologning my whole house. So maybe this isn't a bad thing. A vintage doll brings us to number 5. Something that looks like this has to be haunted. I mean, how can it not be? I'm literally gonna have nightmares about her face tonight, and then the next day after that, and the next day after that for sure. This has to be one of the creepiest dolls that I've ever seen. I think I'd rather have the real life Annabelle in my house, but thinking about that now, yeah, I'd rather not have any of them. Could you imagine if the Annabelle doll went up for sale or for auction? Like, why would you buy it? Okay, but going back to the original story here, this is Josephine, and she is a vintage doll from the 20s. 1920s. An Etsy user purchased her from an estate sale from a deceased woman. The doll is said to be haunted and possessed by the spirits of the woman who used to own the estate. And judging by the look on her face, I don't think that the doll is too happy. The owner has complained that she hears an evil laugh while she's sleeping, objects will go missing, and she can even hear door slams and footsteps. I mean, is this doll epileptic? She wants to get rid of this thing ASAP, and if you're interested in never sleeping again, you can purchase it. It's actually really affordable. It's $20.83. Number 4 brings us to haunted clowns. I don't have a fear of haunted clowns, but it's a very common thing out there. I don't know why. Well, if you have an irrational fear of clowns, you might want to look away for this one, because here we have a 5-inch long clown doll that is said to be haunted with spirits. If this sounds like your idea of fun, then head over to eBay, place your bid. He's being sold right now for 25 bucks. But according to the description, Chip is not a toy to play with, and that's because he likes to mess with you. He likes to turn on and off TVs and lights, and he also has the ability to move your furniture. Once he enters your house, you will see a shadowy figure lurking around you, and you might even hear strange noises at night. I don't even want a clown doll in my house, and I don't know who would want this thing to be in their house. And why is this guy trying to sell it? What if it doesn't sell for like years? I would get rid of this thing instantly. And for the people that do buy it, they must be super brave, willing to take the risk, and have some weird obsession with clowns that are haunted. A haunted teddy bear brings us to number 3. Why do we gotta have a haunted teddy bear? Why can't it just be cute and cuddly and just stay like that? Well, this bear is being auctioned off for $910. It's pretty damn expensive, and the shocking part, there's 62 bids on it already. Well, let me read you guys some of the description that they have on it, and you guys let me know if you guys would also put a bid on it as well. For me, if it was a lot cheaper than $910, I might put a bid on it, but like once it passes like $11, I'm out. Okay, the seller wrote, "All I know is I want this damned thing out of my house. Something is dreadfully wrong with this bear. I never used to be in power of darkness, but now I do. I take no responsibility for what may happen afterwards, and for God's sake, don't keep it anywhere near children." Okay, it doesn't seem promising. I don't know why 62 people would have bidded on this. It doesn't make sense. Did they miss the description? I think the people who placed bids want to buy this bear so they can give it to their enemies. It's like, here you go, bud. Enjoy. Enjoy life. Well, that would be my only logical explanation, because I'm so confused. Up next on our list, and at number 2, we have a haunted Ouija board. And I know what you guys must be thinking. Aren't Ouija boards fake? That's what I'm thinking. I don't know if I believe in the whole thing, but I have a crazy story for you. For my birthday weekend, we're up at a cottage, and my wife and our friends decided to play the Ouija board. I don't know if you call it playing, or I don't get it. But they, for some reason, wanted to talk to spirits, and they got one. They got someone who apparently died in the house, died in the kitchen. They were killed by her dad. I don't know, it was talking to them on the board, and it was moving. And I heard the story like this from everyone who was playing. Everyone was asking questions that no one would know the answer to. Their hands weren't on the board, and it answered it all correctly. And then there was one time where they started to freak out, and they all lifted their hands up. And they promised me, they're not lying about it, but it started to move on its own. I mean, is this real life right now? What the heck is going on? I heard the story from all of them, my friends, my wife, but I still think I'm being bamboozled. Well, according to this listing, going back to the story here, this Ouija board has been involved in a ton of satanic rituals, and it has been able to summon some pretty evil demons and spirits. There was one instance where one person who used this board had an out-of-body experience where she actually felt like she was dead. She was finally able to wake up, and she was super terrified. Now she is listing this Ouija board up for sale, and it could be yours for a low price if you order it now for $520. Apparently it even comes with the dirt that was taken from a haunted graveyard where a satanic group performed one of their rituals on. I don't think I'm going to be bidding on this item. I feel like I could spend my money on more important things that won't kill me in my sleep. A possessed China doll breaks onto this list at number 1. And that's all the languages I can say one in. I'm not very talented. Well, first I want you guys to take a look at this thing. Despite looking pretty innocent, this doll has been known to attack its owners. She has been put up for sale on eBay a bunch of times because the owners were either seriously injured or just creeped out by this doll. One of the owners woke up with scratches all over her face, while another owner said that the doll would set off fire alarms and rip off her jewelry while she's asleep. But despite her dark past and brutal history with her previous owners, she keeps being sold on eBay, and other buyers are taking a risk when they let her into their home. But for now, she's being auctioned off on eBay, and she's just patiently waiting there so she can wreak havoc on her next owners.
At number 10 we have the Haunted Doll Gang. What a better way to kick off this list than not with just one haunted toy, but an entire gang of demonic dolls. The Haunted Doll Gang sounds like a group of French thugs from a strange black and white independent movie, but it's actually a real thing. A paranormal investigator with a passion for collecting things has been putting together a group of haunted dolls. What could go wrong when you bring a bunch of pale-faced toys with spirits attached to them into the same place? I don't know, they'll probably just have a tea party, who cares? Their names are Crystal, Monica, Charlotte, True, Isaac, Lily, Cameron, and Ashley, and their owner has all of them set up with a camera constantly running just in case they do anything spooky. He doesn't want to miss one moment of potential ghost activity. The dolls have been caught on camera moving and talking and doing all sort of creepy stuff, and sometimes you can even hear them giggling, which is the creepiest thing a doll can do. He has a camera set up in his hallway which caught footage of a ghost boy walking around at the bottom of his stairs. Yeah, I wonder what caused that to happen. Maybe the gang of haunted dolls you have in your home? Alright, at number 9 we have the Island of Dolls. Time to go even bigger. Now we've got a whole island of dolls that have a creepy demonic force attached to them. This has to be one of the creepiest places in the whole world. This place used to be just a regular old island just south of Mexico City, but then its owner, Julian Barrera, decided to do a little redecorating. He found a girl's dead body in the river right outside his home. Next to this girl's body was a doll, who he assumed was the girl's doll. He was afraid the girl's spirit was going to be angry and was going to start to haunt him, so he decided to hang the girl's doll from a tree in a way to please her. If it was me, I would have just moved. Well, apparently doing this didn't work because the girl's spirit was still unhappy, so he hung up more dolls, hundreds of them. The scariest part about this story is Barrera was found dead in the same spot that the girl was found. So don't play with a demon's toys unless you want to end up going crazy and decorate an entire island with dolls and then die in the same spot you found the demon ghost body thing that happened, you know what I mean. At number 8 we have the clown doll from Poltergeist. This guy haunted my dreams for like 5 years. I watched Poltergeist when I was 6, and then I was like, oh, clowns and dolls are gonna haunt my nightmares for the rest of time, thanks. In the 1982 classic Poltergeist, a house is built on an Indian burial site, and after a family moves into the house, things keep going downhill. Demons possess everything in the house and start tormenting the family. Throughout the movie we see the family son constantly check in on that creepy clown sitting in his room before he goes to sleep. Every time I see that part of the movie I'm like, just move it out of your room, you already don't like it, why are you leaving it there? Well, the kid doesn't, and then it tries to kill him. The arms grow out like these long ropes and then tries to strangle him to death while you can hear the clown chuckle. Let's watch! At number 7 we have Billy from Dead Silence. For those of you who haven't seen Dead Silence, it's about an evil ventriloquist doll who's attached to some sort of demonic force who is also his owner who is a demon, but they're both dead. It's kind of a convoluted plot, and you think a horror movie about ventriloquist dummies would have done a lot better. I mean, all the pieces are there, but not everything gets to be a smash hit. Even though this movie didn't impress the critics, it has an especially creepy villain. Billy the ventriloquist doll wants to kill you but first make you scream. Once you let out a big howl, he will rip out your tongue and then give your body to his ghost master, who will then turn you into a doll. It sounds like all the worst parts of dying wrapped into one. You get frightened, mutilated, and then your body is used as an art piece for a dying performance art. At number 6 we have Sid's Toys from Toy Story. I don't know if you guys are going to agree with me on this one, because the whole point of Sid's toys in Toy Stories was that they looked scary, but they were actually kind and had a passion for justice. But I'm going to reach into my own fanfic theory of what happened to those toys that attacked Sid. So the toys revolt, then they turn against Sid and do stuff to him that will probably leave him heavily medicated for the rest of his life. Yeah, they really torment him bad. Now what happens after? Do these toys just sit in the room waiting to be thrown into the trash? Or do they start a revolution? They got a taste for revenge and now they want more. This is the beginning of the toy army rising up against us and ending all of our lives. And we don't know what gives these toys in Toy Story their ability to live. Maybe they get their consciousness from the same thing we do. Or maybe demons could possess them and then use them as little soldiers in their dark army. I know this is a far-fetched idea of demonic possession, but all I'm saying is that there are villains in the Toy Story universe, so who knows, there could be demonic toys too, and if I was one of those toys, I would start killing things as soon as I knew I had the upper hand. At number 5 we have Pimp Doll. I just found out about this while making this list and I had to include it because it's one of the cheesiest things I have ever seen. Pimp Doll is one of the villains from a movie called Blood Dolls. First of all, the plot of this movie is ridiculous. It's about an evil genius who turns people into dolls so they can kill his enemies, and the budget is terrible. All the special effects are horrible. Everyone in the movie is over-sexualized and the main doll doing all these killings is Pimp Doll. I haven't watched the movie, so I don't know what kind of horrible spirit is inside Pimp Doll, but I do know that he loves killing, so he could be demonic. I just wanted to get him in because it's so ridiculous. You guys need to know about this. In the trailer alone, he kills like 8 dudes. For that reason, I think he fits perfectly on this list. You don't want to play with him because he'll probably just kill you, and he's got some sort of evil soul inside him. See, it's all lining up. So you need to do yourself a favor and watch this trailer. The trailer is so poorly put together. It's so cheesy and so bad. It's from 1999, but it looks like it's from 1971. At number 4 we have Charlie. Okay, if you buy a new home and then you go into the attic, then you look in a trunk and there's a creepy doll in there covered in Bible verses, just burn it. Don't ask any questions. Don't keep it in your home. Just burn the thing like it's the last day of Burning Man, naked and on acid. Enjoy yourself. Well, back in 1968, a family in New York did everything I just described except for the part where they burned the doll. They found Charlie in a trunk and he had papers with Bible verses on him, and they decided to put him in their collection of other dolls. He was a nice little addition to their home. Well, Charlie immediately started to get back on his bullshit. He would move around the house, knock stuff over. Things started to get really spooky when the family's daughter said that Charlie would come into her room at night and talk to her. The parents thought it was nothing, but then they started to take it seriously when she woke up with scratches that had appeared on her body overnight. After that, they took Charlie back to his jail in the attic. Once again, why wouldn't you just burn him? You're leaving him there for the next family to find. That's not a nice thing to do. At number 3 we have Chucky, probably the most famous killer doll of all time. This wouldn't be a list of demonic toys without him. And yes, I know that Chucky doesn't have a demon inside of him per se, but it's the soul of a serial killer that got locked inside a doll through black magic and then goes on a massive killing spree. That's all the pieces of a demonic force. Chucky is of course the star of the 1988 classic Child's Play and has been tormenting people ever since then. He has a kill count of 67 and is definitely part of the Slasher Hall of Fame. I don't know if that's a real thing, but if it was, Chucky would be in there for sure. At number 2 we have Hugo from Dead of Night. Dead of Night is a 1945 classic. Even though it's in black and white, has some dated acting, and is now kind of cheesy, it still manages to send a shiver down my spine. The movie is about a ventriloquist dummy named Hugo and his master Maxwell. Right from the beginning of the movie you get this strange feeling about the dummy. Every time someone's left alone with him I start to feel uncomfortable. As the movie progresses we start to see it come to life and begin to take over Maxwell. Now it's never clarified whether or not Hugo is possessed by some sort of demon or Maxwell is slowly slipping into some sort of psychotic state. It doesn't really matter because at the end of the movie, Hugo is the master and Maxwell is the puppet. If you're a fan of classic horror movies, then this is one you should not pass up. Alright, for the number 1 spot we have Harold, one of the more famous haunted dolls that have been thrown down the internet. One of the more famous haunted dolls that have been thrown around the internet in recent years. Harold was sold on eBay back in 2003 by Greg Mishka. He was selling the doll for $300 and it came with a warning. He said he had bought the doll at a thrift store and ever since it came into his life everything had been horrible. He would randomly get extremely sick, one of his pets died, and his financial situation was going downhill. However, this warning did not stop the doll from being sold. Since then the doll has been passed from person to person, everyone trying to get rid of it because it apparently ruins your life. A man who came in contact with the doll shortly died right after from a brain tumor, and one of Harold's previous owners died from falling down the stairs. This doll doesn't pull any punches. The crazy part about this is Greg Mishka, the guy who originally sold the doll, said he made the whole thing up. It was a story he just concocted so he can make a little bit of money off a doll that was worthless. So, is the curse real? Did the curse get fabricated from people thinking it's real? Or is there a demon attached to it? I don't know. This is a demon list of demon stuff, so obviously I think there's a demon on it, right?
Coming in at number 10, let's just get it out of the way, we have Annabelle. Okay, so we all know that Annabelle the doll resides in the occult museum, so let's just honestly get her out of the way and move on. Annabelle is a Raggedy Ann doll that lives in a glass box because she simply can't be trusted to be unsheathed to the real world. The doll is demonically possessed by a dead child named Annabelle. Hip hip hooray. The doll has portrayed some horrifying and very evil behaviour, and the Warrens were given the doll by a student nurse who simply couldn't handle having her around anymore. Annabelle the doll was the inspiration behind the scary movies The Conjuring and Annabelle Creations, so a pretty scary plushie. Visitors at the museum are warned profusely not to even touch the glass cage that the creepy old smiling Annabelle sits in. You don't want to find out what kind of malevolence she could unleash if you break the rules. Moving on to number 9, we have a vampire coffin. It seems that the vampire coffin on display in the occult museum was found by the Warrens themselves and was used by a real-life modern-day vampire. But was it though? Let's take a look at it, shall we? I mean, there really is rather a lot going on here. There's a window with a creepy doll head on a plinth. Apparently the plinth is important. There's some kind of mounted devil head too, a spooky necklace, and a picture of the alleged vampire in question. And like, what is happening at the top there? Also, is the vampire who this belongs to pissed that his bed's been stolen? Like, I would be. Is he gonna come looking for it? So many questions. Coming into number 8, we have child gravestones. Okay, but like, actually what is wrong with the Warrens? I get it, occult museum and everything, but do we not draw the line at tombstones of children? Apparently, we do not. These wee little graves can actually be found outside the main museum, you know, just to like create a more total experience in the walk up to the building. It is said that the graves on display belong to children who were used in ritual sacrifice for satanic spells. Coming into number 7, we have the 2 deaf dolls. These dolls are a little bit different from Annabelle, as they are said to be voodoo dolls or witch dolls. Sure, they look creepy. I mean, one of them has a noose around its head for goodness sake. The other one has had its eyes gouged out, which isn't better by any means. The story behind them is even creepier, because you see, voodoo dolls are used to bring real harm to real people. The noose on the neck of one of the dolls probably indicates that someone died, and gouged out eyes, well, that isn't a great sign either. It seems that a doll collector came across these dolls and brought them home. I would leave them very much where they were. On bringing them home, she found that her son's health began deteriorating rapidly. Now it seems that some of the witch's voodoo doll magic had retained and picked the boy as its new vessel. The collector contacted the Warrens, who removed the dolls, after which the boy recovered. But the story continues. It seems that a visitor to the museum broke the rules and touched one of the dolls and was later involved in a horrifying accident. This is what happens when you touch the creepy dolls. Coming into number 6, we have shrunken heads. Okay, do you know what shrunken heads are? Because if you don't, let me break it to you. They are the real decapitated corpse heads of dead people that have been prepared as tribal trophies. Sounds great. To make a shrunken head, you have to remove the skull meticulously, and then you sew the eyes and mouth and nose shut. All of the brain matter and fat from the head is also removed. A ball is stuffed in the head to keep the shape, and then the head is boiled with water-containing tannins. Ugh. Head soup. No. The head is then dried with hot rocks and buried in sand, usually for a year. Great. So in the occult museum there are real decapitated heads, and these ones have been used for tribal magic rituals. There is some seriously bad juju associated with some of these heads. Coming into number 5, we have the summoning mirror. A classic haunted mirror. Mirrors have long been associated with the spirit world. Indeed, legends like Candyman and Bloody Mary seem to suggest that spirits can be summoned from paranormal planes using a mirror. This isn't just any mirror at the occult museum. Of course it isn't. This is a special conjuring mirror
used to bring forth spirits and demons. The only thing is though, you don't know if what answers your call will be a good spirit or a bad spirit. To me, I have to say the mirror is pretty beautiful and lavish, like I'd like that in my bedroom, although maybe without the side of spirits popping up. They can stay out. Coming into number 4, we have the haunted organ. Who this organ belongs to, we simply don't know, but according to the Occult Museum, it starts playing itself at random intervals. Ooh. It is thought that the organ is haunted by a particularly musical spirit and that the instrument provides a macabre soundtrack to the witching hour at the museum. On top of the organ sits all kinds of other creepy stuff, a sign which reads restless spirit, a hand holding a small ball, a bust of a child, a big frog, a selection of spooky owls. Honestly, wonder how the organ feels about all the clutter. Marie Kondo needs to get in, sort it out. Coming into number 3, we have a brick from the most haunted house in England. The story of the Borley Rectory is actually pretty chilling. The building was constructed in 1862 in Victorian times in Essex, and rumours of its haunting were rife from the very beginning. The building was severely damaged by a fire in 1939. Ghost hunters claim the activity is related to a Benedictine monastery built in the area in 1362. A monk was said to have been executed and a nun bricked alive in the walls of the convent after the pair had an affair. It is thought that the nun and the monk haunt the grounds and had a hand in the fire that tore through the rectory building on the site. Before the fire, it was said the owners of the house had found human bones on the property and experienced poltergeist activity. Despite the fire rendering the building inhabitable, hauntings in the ruins continue. Now of course good old Ed and Lorraine had to go for a jaunt there, and they took a token back to the museum with them, a brick from the ruins. Was it one of the bricks that was used to keep the nun in the wall? Does it carry any of the bad energy from its horrible history? Possibly. Coming into number 2, we have the Wood Dweller. Ugh, the story behind this object honestly fills me with fear. So the story goes that the satanic idol was found in the woods by a guy who was out hunting. The man said that he walked up to the doll and had a horrible feeling. Have a listen to what the Warren Museum had to say about it.
He didn't know why. He looked at it, it was so spooky to him. He got this feeling of dread and this feeling of horror. And he said he was sitting next to it, just almost lost all his strength.
Honestly, that's terrifying. It scared a grown man, a huntsman. All of his energy was just drained and he said he was filled with dread. Ugh. He said he turned away from the idol and then he saw a man wearing a black cloak walking in step opposite to him. It seemed that the horned idol is used for satanic rituals for summoning evil spirits. The man did make his way out of the forest and told the Warrens about the idol. Of course, Ed and Lorraine went to seek it. Lorraine Warren was particularly affected by the piece and said that one of the demonic spirits inside the idol sent her into a catatonic state for days. She even claimed it made her levitate. Does this sound like something should be on display to the public? To me, no. Put it away. Okay, this needs to be put away. It freaked me out harder than Annabelle, and I don't know who's gonna make a movie about this, but they should. We have the heart-stopping Shadow Doll at number 1. Let's have a look at this Shadow Doll, shall we? Honestly, my eyes. Take it away. This doll is said to have been created by black magic and is comprised of human and animal bones. Hip hip hurrah. The life-size doll is labelled as a doll of shadows and hexes, and if you ever visit the museum, you should be careful not to look the doll in the eye, for it seems that it has the ability to visit you in your nightmares, giving you a fright so hard you could have a heart attack. Apparently, even so much as photographing this doll could expose you to its hex, so be careful. The Warrens say that the doll was given to them by a couple who found it in an antique store. I know, right? Who wouldn't look at this doll and think, what a beautiful vintage piece worth taking home? Obviously, just ignoring the warning signs of the doll's demonic fashion sense and the soul-sucky open mouth and the gormless eyes. Yep, the couple took it home and began experiencing terrible sleep paralysis and nightmares, and at this point, I'm thinking, who do they have to blame but themselves? The husband even woke up with scratches on his back. Who do you gift a horrible demonic doll to? The Warrens, of course.
At number 10, we have 1,500 live ladybugs. Yeah, sure, why not? There's been so many times I needed thousands of ladybugs for something. You know, to decorate or recreate a plague scene from a movie. Not only is this for sale on Amazon, but it's a bestseller. There are a bunch of people who want a ton of living ladybugs for whatever reason, and it says that they're guaranteed to be alive. So you don't need to worry about a single one of these insects dying while they travel through the mail. And with a 4 4.4 rating, I would say that there's a good chance that a lot of these customers have bought this and got exactly what they wanted. I bet a few of them actually sat there and counted each one of the ladybugs. Well, apparently ladybugs are actually great for the environment because they eat a lot of smaller gross bugs like mites and whiteflies. Another selling point on Amazon, and I'm pulling this right from the website, it says ladybugs are good bugs, great for kids, birthday parties, and school projects. That sounds like a great party for everyone to enjoy. Everyone's there having a good time, having a drink, and then you just release a bag of ladybugs into the birthday party like, feed my minions. At number 9 we have the pimple popper toy. Now for most people the idea of popping pimples grosses them out so much they probably can't even do it themselves, and that's why I put it on this list. Who would want to pop pimples for fun? Well, actually I would. I'm one of those weirdos that gets excited every time they see a zit. I'm always just like, oh, I can't wait to send it to hell. It looks and feels like I'm actually cleansing my body. I've popped zits on every girl I've ever dated, and I know I'm not the only one. That pimple popper lady wouldn't have a show if there wasn't a bunch of people like me who love seeing pimples get popped. Actually, I should probably buy this toy. It would only cost me $11.85 before shipping, so for less than 20 bucks I can get my pimple popping fix and leave my poor face alone. All it does is make me look great. At number 8 we have the Heisel 3D Sleep Mask. Are you tired of sleep paralysis demons sneaking up on you when you're at your most vulnerable? Do you want to have better protection from intruders than a gun? Does the idea of sleeping next to someone repulse you and you're looking for a way to scare the person next to you out of bed? Well, look no further than the Heisel 3D Sleep Mask. This is constructed like your standard sleep mask. It will wrap around your head, block out any light with its nice snug fit and design. But the thing that sets this mask apart are the realistic eyeballs that are on the outside of the mask. Could you imagine getting to bed with your wife, you roll over to kiss her goodnight, and then you see that she has eyeballs staring back at you from her sleep mask? I would be like, yeah, I'm gonna sleep on the couch tonight, honey, it's fine. You're weird, and I think we should probably see other people. At number 7 we have a bag of heads. Have you ever thought, wow, I have way too many friends. I really wish there was something I could buy to scare people away so I can have more free time and focus on my weird hobbies. Well then why don't you just buy a bag of doll heads, place the doll heads throughout your home. It won't be very long before you're considered creepy in your friend group and no one wants to hang out with you anymore, huh? And then you can spend more time on all those weird projects you want to do or just alone with your crazy thoughts. This bag of terror can be yours for only 20 bucks with free shipping. That's 10 heads for 20 bucks. To me, that sounds like a sweet deal that I wouldn't want to pass up. I'm just wondering who on earth only needs doll heads. Maybe your kids got into a fight and one of the kids ripped off the doll head of the other kid's doll, and now you're a stressed out parent trying to replace the head without them finding out that the doll's been decapitated. That's the only scenario where I think this is actually normal. At number 6 we have the pet casket. Losing your pet is a very sad time. I had a dog when I was a kid, and when he went, it was for sure the hardest I have ever cried in my whole life. It was devastating, but I still don't think I would have ever wanted to put the little dude in a casket. For one, you rarely know when your pet is going to die, so if you have to buy this casket, then you're gonna be like, we need to get same-day shipping on this bad boy. We don't want like a dead pet sitting around for too long. It's not gonna be good for the house. Also, this casket looks super cheap. If I'm gonna bury my dog in a casket, you better believe it's not gonna be some lame pink silk that probably is tacky to the touch. I would be burying my dead fur baby in a velvet coffin that would make Hugh Hefner's ghost jealous. At number 5 we have uranium ore. Now let's be very clear on this. This is a very small amount of uranium. It's not really anything to worry about. You can't buy a couple of these and then craft an explosive and then be on the 8 o'clock news demanding $10 million in untraceable funds. But that being said, you can get something that is radioactive off the internet, and this thing has a 984 CPM value. Now what does that mean? I have no idea. Are you kidding me? You think I know how radiation works? What are you top 10 list, you crazy guys? But I do know this. Ken Jorgensen wrote in the Modern Survival blog that it would take 432 days at a CPM of 100 to up your odds of getting cancer to 1 in 1,000. This is obviously way more than that, but it still seems like 984 CPM would be very, very low, so I wouldn't really worry about the radiation. But I still don't think you should be able to buy this off the internet. I don't want to walk into someone's home who forgot to put the lid on their uranium ore and then just start seeping into me. And for sure, if you buy this off the internet, you end up on a list that the CIA looks at all the time. It's like, who's this uranium guy? At number 4 we have a fake skin stitching kit. Now I really do get this one. If you're a doctor, you don't want the first time you try to stitch a wound to be on a person who is bleeding out. out. It would be very nice to start in a calm environment. But what I don't like is that there for sure is some creepy human centipede kind of guy who is buying this so he can start working on his dream of making creations in his basement. If you ever walk into someone's house and they have one of these just laying around and they're not med school and they're not some sort of survival enthusiast, then I would politely run out of their house and spit out whatever drink they gave you. Because if you stay, it won't be long before you end up half man, half walrus like in that movie Tusk. At number 3 we have roast beef bath soak. This is disgusting. Could you imagine going on a date with someone and you're like, you know, I really like them, but for some reason they just smell like a beef dip sandwich all the time. For most of us this would be so gross, but I know there has to be someone out there that would be like, oh yeah, she's the one, I like the beef girl. Who would want to smell and taste like a roast beef sandwich? Are you trying to seduce a werewolf? My favorite part about this product is that on the bag it says world famous. You know that beef dip bath soak that everyone is talking about? You go down to Mumbai, they got the roast beef bath soak. You fly over to Tokyo, you better believe they got the roast beef bath soak. It's everywhere in the world. There isn't a country across the globe that doesn't carry the roast beef bath soak. For number 2 we have doll head pendant. If I ever saw someone wearing something like that, I would instantly walk away from them. I'd be like, I don't need whatever kind of bad mojo you're floating around with, you can stay out of my life. You got some weird ghosts attracted to you for sure. I mean, just look at this thing. It's got not just one doll head on it, but like 10 doll heads on this pendant. They all look like they were pulled out of the basement of some old dude who would spend his evenings making art out of toenail clippings that he found in change rooms. Now that being said, I'm pretty sure that this is for a Halloween costume, which would work very well, but still it makes me feel all strange and creepy inside. I want nothing to do with it. And for the number 1 spot we have laser tattoo removal. Shooting lasers into your skin that are so powerful they can pull tattoos right out of it should be something only a doctor can do, right? No, of course not. You could spend $40 and have the whole laser tattoo removal kit sent to your house and just blast lasers into your skin. Who cares about any safety precautions? Just blast them in there. You don't need to worry about any of that kind of stuff. You're here to rip out old mistakes with new mistakes. Just put on some sunglasses or something. There's no point in looking better if you can't see yourself because a rogue laser bounced off a mirror and slapped you right in the retina. Also, I think it should go without saying that you shouldn't let your kids get a hold of this thing. My favorite part about it is that this product has a 2.8 review score. That's what you want when you're about to buy something dangerous. Not only can this thing seriously harm you, but it barely works.